Just gonna farm essence while I listen to this.
All right, so you did your little introduction there. That's great. So just so everyone is kind of on
Why
the
does that
same
sound
page,
toxic?
this
I don't
is
know why.
Jonathan Rogers.
It
He's
just
one of the
does.
directors for PoE2, and you've been quite busy doing a round of interviews with
Jonathan.
many people at many events, spreading the word about
I
the
don't know if
features in
that's
the upcoming game that many of us
correct or not,
are
but Jonathan's one of the
dying to
original.
try. So
Career
we
was
did an interview at
Jonathan new.
ExileCon. There's been a few announcements
I don't
since, but I've
remember.
noticed that you've actually been really active on the Path of Exile 2 subreddit, answering questions of just about anyone that has one for you. It's been kind of difficult for me to kind of compile all that information, so maybe I'm going to ask a question that has been asked already. My goal is to ask new questions. It's just a very, very difficult task because the information isn't really.
What do I think he's gonna ask about? I think that he's gonna ask about.
Never trusted. The job never ends.
One I already know. I listened to the first like 5 minutes. He's gonna ask about skills. Wonder if he's gonna ask about crossplay. He's gonna ask about details of the beta. He's gonna ask about endgame mechanics. And has Ruthless been asked? No, and he already knows the answer to that. Ruthless is a no.
How's the train?
What else is he gonna ask? How long is this interview? Is he gonna ask about PvP? I hope that he asks. I really want to see like an open world and getting rid of loading screens because it's possible.
Oops, clumsy me.
Most games have like cut scenes in between their loading screens to make it not look like a loading screen. Like what was I watching? I was watching High on Life. They do this where it's like going through a warp gate. Like I wonder if they could like play like a little animation of us stepping through a portal or something to load the map, because the map doesn't take that long to load, so an animation of like 2 seconds of like it zooms in on the character and they walk through and then you're in the map. They walk through like a portal and then you're like in. That'd be really cool, because the cutscene or like the loading screen now is what, like 5 fucking milliseconds. It's like loading gear and then you're in the game. There could be a little cutscene there.
Boredom will drive a man to do just about.
Cutscenes in general would be kind of cool. Just little, like the one where we see that Innocence's statue turns into Katava. Just little things. Just little, like, 10-second ones. Those would be really cool. Is any of that going to be in the game? New players love that shit. It'd be awesome. I know he's going to ask about respecs.
You bash well, Exile.
Which
Hate the dark.
Don't care.
This what?
I'm going
Doesn't
to kill
seem like
you,
an
Giannis.
actual problem.
Just not yet.
What else is there to ask
has been
about
ordered, heretic.
that we don't already know?
Crusade never ends, brother. Back to the Inquisition.
There's so many that he could ask about that we already know.
I know death is simply the way of this land.
Oh, the first league
You've made
mechanic?
your
A truce.
Is the game starting with a league mechanic? I don't know if we know that answer yet. I forgot to grab my essences. I don't know if we know that yet. So, be that. I don't think it doesn't really make sense, right? For there to be a league launch when the game releases? That doesn't really make sense to me.
I need
So
more mana. When I'm ready and not before.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think. I don't really know what else he's gonna ask him about. Guilds, maybe? Hasn't really been talked about. Trading? Is trading gonna be on a website or in-game now? Alright, well, let's just see what he asks
Like,
him
there's
about.
a wiki, but even the wiki has some info wrong. Like, I actually had a question about the crafting bench being removed,
Yeah.
but apparently you've actually addressed that recently on Reddit. So, again, and of course, with,
What was his
with
answer
all
to
of
that?
this information, with the game still being in
That
development,
it's
I hope
removed, but
people
will probably be a
understand
league
that you'll
mechanic
just be
later on or
giving
something.
your best answer from what you can share with us.
I avoid the
nothing is
Reddit
final
at all
and that
costs,
for the disclaimers.
unless
Okay,
I
great.
see a post that
So,
like
I
happens to
wanted
be in my feed.
Start with a round of the
It's
questions
like,
that I
I just dropped
together.
800 mirrors
And
from
then
one
I
mob.
have
I'm like,
a
oh,
number of
okay, well,
questions that I
that's
saw
interesting.
unanswered on Reddit on actually just a few YouTube videos. I pulled some questions from chat, and we will pull further questions from chat as we go throughout the segment. But yeah, so it should be.
A chat question. Is PoE 2 gonna be slower than PoE 1?
Pretty good segment. So first, I kind of wanted
I
to
guarantee that question
dive
would be in
and
chat.
talk a little bit about the
Guarantee it's in
last
chat.
trailer that you
You
had.
may
which
not
was
read it,
the
but I know it's
Mercenary
there.
trailer. In that, you announced that you have
Hello.
WASD movement, and I tried to kind of
Oh,
imagine
got one of
this,
my last
like, you know,
ones
how I would
needed.
play with it. It feels like I would, a lot of the time, not want to go exactly right or exactly left or exactly up or exactly down. And with the keyboard, it's maybe a little bit difficult to actually combine that. Now, I know some people really wanted this feature, so you're bringing it to them. But I have to imagine, is this more tailored for like a controller-style gameplay?
So that wasn't our initial thinking. I honestly, it was just when I was, trying out.
I can't see
So
myself ever
this has
playing
been
this game with a
suggested in our studio
controller.
long time
That just
ago,
doesn't
to be clear, right? Like, people have been saying, hey, maybe
seem
we should do this for a while. And I was
right.
kind of always on the idea that this is something we should try, but it never was kind of like the right moment to do it because it is quite a complicated thing to actually fully pull off. Then when we were doing mercenary stuff, I was kind of like, okay, we have some of the preconditions we needed to actually to go and try it. The other thing as well, of course, is like people in the community have been keen for ages. So then I was just like, you know what, let's give it a shot. And I wouldn't say that controller was really the first thing on my mind. It was, but I mean, obviously the improvements we
Who
make
is
to
asking
control
for
would
this?
benefit controller. But it really was just like
Don't-
how can I make this class feel good?
Why would I?
Kind of generally my feeling
Can't
is
even think of a game that-
whatever it takes to make the combat feel good is what we
I'd
will
like
try.
with it.
Yeah, it's kind of just one of those
Wow,
things
I
that
don't
happen that way.
play with it.
I don't think that the limitation of having only 8 directions.
Maple Story, I didn't play
WASD
with
is
it.
particularly a problem in practice. It seems to kind of just be fine, just from me playing anyway.
Is there any game that I
So
use W?
yeah, like that hasn't really been an issue.
The only
because
thing
the
I could
character
think
always sort
of
looks
is
towards,
Call of Duty
wheel
Zombies, the
mouses.
top-down
Doesn't
game
honestly
mode.
even really feel like 8-directional movement because the character can technically kind of walk in any
But
direction relative to where they're
that
facing. So you end up kind of just completely forgetting the fact that
doesn't-
it's actually 8-directional, and yeah, just kind of works.
I don't know.
Well, since you have tried it, and I guess you are
Finally,
probably
come
one of
on.
the only ones who has tried it, are you a convert? Are you going to be a WASD enjoyer moving forward in PoE 2?
I'm pretty sure I am. Yes, I was actually very skeptical outside of range. Like my
Really?
first, when we were talking about it, I was like, okay, this is going to be a
I
thing for
need more
range. I don't
mana.
think melee is going to be that great. And actually, the reason why I thought
need to
that
put
was,
melee
there was this
smash
game,
back on.
what was it called? I don't think it ever actually released. It was in beta. It might have been called like Pagan Online or something like that. From ages ago, and they had WASD movement in an action RPG, and I really hated
Is that
it.
the
I thought
RTS
that,
game?
the movement felt really terrible, the combat felt terrible, and so I was kind of
Oh my God.
imagining that we would have the same problem with our melee. But then what I found was when I actually tried that out, is that it actually felt really good, and I think the reason is because of the step attack stuff we have. What that means basically is that when you attack, we have different animations depending on whether you're moving
Okay.
at the time, and also depending on whether there's a monster that's like where the monster is relative to you. So we've got animations of the character sort of stepping forward, and the key thing we're trying to do
need to
there
put
is
multi-strike
make it so that
back
you
on.
never
I need a
lose
6
momentum.
link.
on your character. So
unbelievably bad for this
like,
character.
It feels really bad if your character just kind of comes to a stop and then attacks.
Yeah.
And so by adding these extra animations, it allows us to make the character feel like they're kind of flowing forward and then going into the attack. So because we have those, I think it actually drastically improves how melee combat feels with WASD. And I actually am a fan of it.
Can there ever be an essence in this boss area?
Pretty damn good.
Well, I guess I'll have to give it a try. I mean, I was skeptical as well, but on your recommendation, I guess more of us will perhaps be more open-minded on it. Now, since you mentioned there's like a more of an active flow of combat, the mercenary also has, in addition to the instant attacks, something that kind of caught my eye was the attacks while moving.
Correct.
Now, the closest thing we have to this is some form of cyclone or cyclone triggering other skills in Path of Exile 1. And
don't we have like
with
flicker,
cyclone actually being a pretty poor skill otherwise, it still has this mainstay in the game just because it can be used while moving. Is this going to be like a full attack while moving, or is it like cyclone-ish where you have certain movement penalties? Like, is there something you can elaborate on that? And maybe if this is something more than just what the mercenary will
dash
have?
thing, or is that not a damage skill? I've never used it.
On rapid shot in particular,
the lightning
basically you just get a 50%
teleport backwards.
while you're
Isn't that a detonate thing?
So just whatever your movement speed is, it'll be halved during rapid shot, and that sort of tends to feel pretty reasonable. This is something that I'm keen to do more of with other skills in the game. I think it actually makes the pace of combat feel faster when you can sort of begin attacking before you arrive at your next pack, or just sort of otherwise having something to do while you're retreating. So I kind of quite like the feel of that, and so I'd like to do some of that as well. But I don't want to make it to the point where every skill you can just do while moving, because I think that results in very floaty combat that I don't really like. So in particular for melee, you kind of have to make sure you're splitting the difference a little bit of where
are still
you need to make sure, like what I think can be good is that you can kind of ease it into, like you start an attack, and during the start of that attack you've kind of got movement that can be controlled, and then there's kind of a part where the movement control you have tones down to potentially 0 for at least a little while, and then back into
get onslaught back. That's why I feel so sluggish, because I don't have onslaught.
Like the feeling of you're still able to do a lot of control even in melee. But also I think for other ranged classes as well, it can be good to have just a few options. Not necessarily a lot of options, but at least a few options that allow you to be done while moving. There's just certain things I think that can feel really good from that. And so we have been experimenting with other classes and other skills as well. Like we think there are certain skills that can really benefit from that kind of thing. Yeah, it's definitely something I want to do more of.
So I kind of wanted to ask this later, but I'll jump to it now since you've touched upon it. One thing that I feel isn't super cut and dry in the presentations for the classes is what is attributed to the class and what is attributed to the skill, because people, when they're seeing Path of Exile,
it's going to be the same as PoE 1. You could use any class with any skill, any class.
That skill gems are just skill gems, and
nothing's
can be
going to change
by
there.
any class. So the idea of attacking while moving, when watching like the mercenary
if they change
trailer,
that, there would be a
the viewer
revolt.
Doesn't know for sure if it's something that the mercenary gets or if it's something that's attributed to the skill.
Right. So the only thing that the classes actually technically get is the ascendancy classes that belong specifically to them, plus the starting position in the tree, right? So, and that's still true in PoE 2. It's just that whenever we're presenting like content, especially when we've got like an audience we expect to have a lot of new players in, we kind of tend to want to keep to the stereotypes and kind of not like go into that other side of things too much, because I think it just confuses the issues. And really, when you're presenting a class to someone, what you're kind of presenting to them is some kind of vision for what type of a character they might want to be. And so that tends to be what we focus on. But of course, I mean, at the end of the day, like it is still very much my preference to have everything be as much as possible, like have interesting combos from other stuff, and we still have that very much like Magic the Gathering style.
Yeah, I'm getting up there in logbooks. I think I have half a chest full.
There's other, like use things off attribute, that kind of stuff. It's still very important to me. So yeah, like absolutely, you can use all of those things are part of the skill and not part of the class.
Another aspect to this was to the mercenary trailer that I was quite interested in. So again, we don't know how much of it has to do with the general.
We already knew that
gameplay,
question,
in the
by the way,
mercenary
Kripp.
trailer,
We knew the answer to that. That's why I knew
people
it.
should watch it. But when the mercenary takes on the boss at the end of the trailer,
Ask about Spirit.
the pacing of the boss fight
the dealio
is,
with that?
I believe, he's kind of trying to dodge
Need more
attacks.
info on
He's
Spirit.
like debuffing the boss, and then when the boss gets to about like 30, it just dies super quick. And I'm guessing it's because he's stacking up all these debuffs throughout the fight. Is this something
No.
more tailored towards the mercenary, or is this kind
He
of
died
how
that
you
quickly because he
envision
used the
combat
full
across the
combo.
board?
So generally speaking,
He hadn't
like,
used the full
I
combo
guess the feeling I like to try and get
completely
is that
before.
you've got some kind of way to do really large amounts of damage, but you can't always necessarily perfectly execute that because of what the boss is doing. So in that particular thing, it wasn't actually that there were
ate my greed
debuffs on the
essence.
boss. I just managed to execute a perfect. So the combo I was using there
I
was
needed to go do this because I need to get onslaught.
Use incendiary rapid shot, which builds up like heat on your crossbow. And then with that, when you fire a grenade, the grenades get extra fire damage on them based on how much heat there was on the crossbow.
So what? I'm bottom.
And
middle?
then you can then use incendiary power shot
No.
to detonate those grenades.
It
So I
was
just kind of managed to get all the grenades in the right
far
place and
left.
get the and get the like the maximum amount of heat on my crossbow at the time at that exact moment.
Give me
And that's why I did
onslaught.
like a really large amount of damage right at the end there. But in order to be able to get that, you need to be able to use rapid shot for enough time without having interruption to build up the heat and that kind of thing. So it's just a matter of kind of getting that sorted out. I think there also might have been something to do with the baby going on there. I can't remember the exact thing around that, but the bosses can go down very quickly if you know how to execute. And actually, an interesting thing with that is that the first time with the mercenary setup that we had for that trailer that I played the boss, that I killed it. It actually took me 5 minutes. And I said to Mark, hey man, what's up with this boss fight? Like, you know, that's taking way too long. Like, what are we doing here? And he's like, what are you talking about? It takes me like 1 minute at most. Like, you must be terrible. And then I tried it again immediately. And
He's
then the
like,
next
what
time
the
I played
fuck is
it,
wrong with you?
It took me 2 minutes without like me really realizing that I had particularly learned anything. So
Yeah,
it actually turns
it's-
out that you know, it doesn't actually take long to learn the mechanics of the boss. And once you know them, the degree of increase in damage you can deal is so much higher. And that's because
damage
once you've learned
uptime.
the mechanics of the boss
Instead of
isn't
trying to
disrupting you quite
dodge
as
and
much,
dodge
you
it
have
in
to know
weird
what to
times, he
expect,
knows when
and
he
that
can
allows
dodge,
you to
when
kind
he
of
can
build up those
DPS.
various combos that let you execute large amounts of
Same
damage.
thing for any game.
Yeah, that's kind of what happened there. And so now, of course, like it's actually another case I had of that was the blind beast. I was doing this demo with the druid and the blind beast just again and again and again and again.
That's a
The
boss
beginning,
that
it was
looks
taking
like
me,
there's
3,
like
4, 5 minutes to
set,
kill that boss fight. And then by the time that I actually recorded the one that I think went
DPS
online,
times and
it
like
was
set.
done in like freaking 30 seconds or something like that. And it's literally just from just playing the boss again and again. So you know, it is sort of
There's
impressive
exploding
how
corpses. I'm
learning the
scared.
mechanics does actually make you better at the game.
As a follow-up question, since you mentioned
not
that this
explode an
idea
essence near
of
me.
figuring out where the DPS windows are and being able to properly execute your combos, resulting in like multiples more
I
damage.
need to get taunt on one of these
Is
minions.
that perhaps
Anyways,
something that might be a
the
bit
blind beast
difficult
is
to
definitely
tune
one that's
with,
always
where,
attacking, and then he has
have,
that one like
a two-player
stuns
party,
himself or whatever,
and you just
right?
had a really tanky
Or he
friend
exhausts
keeping the
himself.
boss perfectly still.
It's the
Wouldn't that,
same
in
with
a sense,
the
make it
leaping
much
guy on
easier?
Glacier map.
It
He's,
can
like,
do,
always
but,
attacking
there
you,
are
then he,
various
like,
factors. So a lot of the
he gets tired
crowd
for,
control
like,
type
2 seconds.
mechanics have things built. So for example, freeze, right? If you freeze a boss,
And if you
then
like
the
flame
next
dash
freeze
away or
takes
whatever during
longer.
his
That's
cooldown
like a
phase,
thing
you're
that
like,
kind of
oh
pulls off
man,
over time.
oh that was when I
Effectively,
was
like,
supposed to
the more party
DPS.
members you have,
Let's DPS
kind of
now.
just like
Oh,
this,
he's slamming me.
the
Gotta keep
various
running.
systems that work sort of like how poise works all respond to that. So that kind of means that you know, someone sitting there stunning the monster is gonna, if you've got like multiple people doing that, it's going to get harder to
I have
crowd
no idea
control
how this
the
will
boss over
ever
time.
work.
And then
So I
it
don't
should
see
sort of
myself
come
ever
out to
playing
be
Kripp play.
relatively similar once you've reached the steady state, as it were, versus having a single player. Once you take into account the amount of increase in life and all that other sort of stuff. So we kind of have to get that tuned exactly right, which I can't say we've done a huge amount of tuning so far on, honestly, because we still need to do a bunch of work there.
Did
But
MP
ideally,
react to this as well?
The
I
intention is
wonder,
kind of get to the point where it sort of feels a little bit similar. But
they
of
said
course,
right
there has to
here.
be room for synergy between between characters, right? And we
Yeah.
definitely build that in as well. But yeah, it will. Ideally, you're not just going to completely trivialize the boss just because you've got a couple of extra players in your party.
I can imagine them
it's
say,
still
"Oh, it
intended-
just
we've
works in
always
PvP,
striven for,
PvE,
like,
or not
it's just as
PvP.
good
It
in
works in
single player as
co-op.
multiplayer, like, make sure
Oh,
the
but
balance
it doesn't
is
work."
All right. Now this is kind of where I meant to ask the question, but I guess I'll elaborate. I was still really curious what pushes a skill and how much of a role the ascendancies have to do with it. Again, we've seen the druid interpreted in other games where it is very much the class. That is, like, you know, in other games, there's no other shape-shifting class. If you want to play a shapeshifter, you play the druid. Now in PoE2,
Am I looping?
I imagine the
ask this?
shape-shifting part is a skill gem that
Oh, and he's asking
other
about
classes
shape-shifting
can use.
particularly.
So what makes the druid more of a
Gonna be like an
druid? How
aura,
much
isn't it?
does the ascendancy have to do with it? Is it kind of in a way where it's
gonna be like throwing a banner
PoE1,
down.
where they're just slightly better at it?
I bet you. That's what he's gonna
So
say. It's like a
when we're doing ascendancy
on-off
classes
aura
as well,
thing.
it's another one of those cases where we try to make it so that the ascendancy classes can be relevant for builds even when you wouldn't think so. So like what we try to do is, like, you know, you got an ascendancy class. If you look at it and what it's called and what it obviously looks like it should be doing, it is clearly going to be good at doing, you know, what you expect the ascendancy class is going to be doing. But at the same time, we try to sort of word all the stats so that they don't technically require, you know, that you're actually using shapeshift forms, for example. You know, they just happen to be very good at the things that shapeshift forms happen to do, and, you know, and you sort of look at it that way. But we do want to make it so that absolutely you should be able to play, you know, a shapeshifting duelist or something like that. You know, it can be something that we want to have scope for, even if it isn't necessarily common or the most obvious thing to do. It is something we've always, you know, like to try and make it so you can do that.
So
you know what I mean?
yeah, shapeshifting's like just a
Alright.
jewel or an item or something.
So you guys put out the date for the PoE2 beta. I believe it's in early June, and this is going to be a pretty big milestone. I kind of wanted to ask a pretty broad and general question, and I have no idea what to expect for a reply because I'm sure there's still a lot of things in the work. But what can people expect out of this beta? Like, are we going to see the whole game up until the point where it's developed, or are we just going to have kind of like a shareware limited act version like we've seen
just
from more recent
campaign,
titles?
maybe like
So the plan
first
is the whole game.
5% of the end game.
Obviously, you know, we're not necessarily going to finish everything. I
Okay.
don't think that the entire end game will be there. Like, we're sort of planning probably around like 60 maps as like a sort of starting point for the end game.
I was gonna say like
There will be a
like
couple of other
T1
in-game,
was the only thing that was gonna be
systems
there.
in there as well. But I obviously don't really
60
want to talk too
maps.
much about
How many maps do we have right now?
We really do need to make sure that it's the whole campaign.
I
at the very
like
least,
having
and,
more
and
maps.
maps as well, just so that we can
I
actually
like
do
it.
progression testing. Because if we can't,
Because
test
I
the whole
assume
game,
that
we're kind of
means
not really
we.
learning anything on that economic front, and I think that is one of the more important things we
I
need
like
to get
it.
out of the beta, and making sure that there's nothing to.
I wonder if they're
kinda,
gonna get rid of map cycling
I don't know, like nothing that's like breaking the game
every
too
league,
hard, because
or it's just gonna
during
they're just
beta,
gonna
obviously once
pile
you're
them
out of
all
beta,
in
right, like you
with
can
the
never
new,
remove
however the new
items or
in-game
really,
system
you know,
works.
like they have to exist forever at that point, right? So we want to make sure that everything's good there, but you know, making sure that the progression is good and all that stuff really just requires the whole game to kind
That's
of be
not
there.
true.
So yeah, it won't be like all content, but it will be
Because they've removed
you know, like,
and
not
deleted
especially not an in-game, but it will
previous
be a very
uniques or
sizable amount of
radically
it.
changed them so they're
And,
not
there might
completely
be
the
like a
same
couple of
anymore.
classes that we can't initially do. I'm hoping we can do all of them, but we'll sort of see where we get to with that. But it should be most of them at the very least. And yeah, I honestly, like, I should hope that anyone who's in the beta would see it as a game that is like fully, like, has full quality.
Yeah,
and
we're there to
as
break
big
the
or
game
bigger than any
on
other
beta.
kind of
I'm
action
going to
title
try and
that we
break every single thing that I
that's great.
can,
Um,
and then submit a
Going
bug report.
through the different
And
places
hopefully
on
it
the
gets
internet where
fixed.
people are talking about PoE2, the players
playing
that
a
don't already play
massive
PoE1,
amount.
their main concern has to do with
Massive
Path of
amount
Exile
of
in general as a
specters.
genre being a bit complex.
Trying to
And
break
when
every
new
specter
game releases generally trying to at least touch upon
so that we
broad
don't have,
appeal.
run into a problem that we're
Is
at
there
right now
some
where there's
things that
only
PoE2 is
one
tackling differently than PoE1
viable
to kinda
specter build.
grab
That's
the
it.
attention of some
or it's a
prospective players?
support skill for
So
all
I
of their
think
classes.
that, like, this is kind of one of those really complicated ones because it is very important to us
swiftly.
that we never dumb the game down to the extent that, you know, you won't be able to do all the interesting stuff that we're known for. But at the same time, we do obviously understand the fact that, you know, we're known as a very complicated game, and I think it's sort of interesting because there are certain things about that. Like, so I've actually been talking a lot recently with people on the team about this and like what we can do to kind of improve things. And I think there's kind of a mix of factors. On the one hand, you've got stuff that we've already kind of like announced that how we're fixing it. Stuff like this, the way the skill system works, I think is just like way better for new players. This kind of thing.
Skill
Straight up
gems,
improvement. But I think that there are
Links,
things like there was a
coloring,
recent
all that
conversation
stuff.
on Reddit as well about the skill tree and, you know, what we're doing about it. And I think a lot of people, I think there's a lot of subtlety with it because it's like a lot of people are like, oh, you should just have like, you know, free respecs all the time, so that it's just easy, and if you make a mistake, it's no problem. This kind of thing.
Don't
I kind of
do
look at that and
that.
I'm like,
Other ways.
I don't know that that's really
like
necessarily
before.
going to solve the problem. I
Yes,
think,
stick to your guns on
we've
this.
kind of got
They're
this issue
wrong.
of, like, trying to communicate information in a
They are
well,
wrong.
succinct way, so it doesn't kind of scare people off,
I
but
do
also
have the
enough information you
when
actually still
bargaining.
get everything. So I've been looking into
That
ways
serves
recently
my
about how we
plan
can kind of
quite
do that, and I think that like, I mean, this is like a feature that we've just been proposing recently, but and kind of haven't actually gone any way towards implementing yet. But we're talking about like making it so that when you go to allocate stats on the passive tree, that it's more clear whether or not the skills that you have equipped would actually be affected by it. Like this kind of thing. Like
I need
we've been
more
discussing sort of
mana.
like, you know, what are the common pitfalls that people are going to run into. But the other thing as well is that we're planning on just doing some straight up usability testing. We've got like in the future we've got a usability lab that we're going to be using to kind of like test with completely just like players that are off the street and just kind of see, you know,
They have,
how
like-
they respond to things. Like, do they understand things? So you know, there's a lot we can do.
Oh,
here.
that's
It
not
is
what I
gonna be
thought.
a
I thought he was
focus, but
talking
at the same
about
time,
there's
I
like
just
a
don't want people to
training
hear
room.
from that, the idea that, oh, you know, we're just going to make the game, we're just going to dumb it down. You know what I mean? Like it is
Yeah.
really important that we not do that.
Well, that's good to hear. I was browsing the wiki, because there is a PoE2 wiki. It's kind of just a list of
Yeah.
information.
Here. Once this essence dies, which that should have been very scary, but I'm crit immune, so he wasn't that scary. He wasn't damaging my... If I see my golem die, I was gonna leave, but... Anyways. I think how they should do skill tree stuff is one of two ways. The spell books, they would have to change this in PoE 1 too,
It
because
serves the domain.
the problem would be... They would complain about it here too.
Not the lonely
The skill books you get that give you
land.
respecs,
Not before.
make them give 10. And then that's it.
I'm afraid that
People can
was
respec a lot more.
Others.
You'll regret. That
And then
was
by the time you get to
vivid.
Act 10, you have 100 respecs.
That
So you
was
could have
vivid.
respec twice.
I
Whatever.
see you're not one to bluff. Well,
I'm going to kill you, Giannis.
That's the first one. That's an easy, cheap way. I don't think it fixes anything. Whatever. The way that I think that and they're also not going to do that. There's no way they do that, because that's basically also just giving them free respecs. I think that making skill points show what they do, like a gem, like if I do this and the little supported things on the side, the same with skill points. Like there's little check marks next to like my skills and says, oh, this affects this, this affects this. What's a example? Increased area effect. Oh, that doesn't work on any of my minions. All the ones are checked off. It doesn't work with those. A little help menu like that, I think, would work. And then at the end of every act, it says, hey, you used, I don't know, how much you use in an act? 6 or 7 skill points this act. You can refund them now, or lose them if you continue on to the next act. And then there's like, oh, okay, so I was speccing my character. None of this worked. Let's try these other things that say they work. Which I could see them maybe doing this. I like the idea of the saying what the skill points do. But just allowing people to respec, it's gonna be number one reason why is they hate when everyone uses one skill. They hate it. And every single build guide, all of these people that do build guides, every single build guide will say, hey, use this skill gem the entire way through the campaign, and because it's the fastest, most effective way, and then completely change your character once you get to maps to this. All build guides will say that, all of them. So, and GG will go to like PoE Ninja, and they'll be like, 99% toxic rain. And it's like, okay. We don't want to see that. That's awful. And then they, I don't know, they don't really like seeing everyone doing one thing, and they don't like, you don't feel like you're playing your character or leveling it. Like, you want to feel the progression of your character as you're going through. And if your character's progression is, it's 2 different characters, it's like, what was the point of the campaign? What was the point of leveling up the skill gems? What was the point of all your gear if you're not going to use it? It was just two different experiences. Which, you know,
Thanks.
some people think they want that, but I don't think so. I think that's wrong. Anyways.
And I'm sure, again, some of it, not necessarily outdated as far as the public knows, but perhaps you'd like to touch upon the subject because we're bringing it up again. One thing that PoE has gotten some attention for is kind of like the instant logout that's especially used by hardcore players. On the wiki, I found that there is set to be a 2.5-second cast time for opening portals mid-combat, and taking damage will interrupt it.
It is actually just in boss fights. You can do it instantly when you're not in a boss fight. But yes, the idea is to actually prevent you from doing that, right? Like we want you to actually have to actually fight the boss and be able to kill it in one go, ideally. Or maybe that there's a few points in the boss fight where where you would be able to take the opportunity. But the key thing is there's still some skill there. It's not just it isn't just a matter of like go in, go out, go in, go out.
I think maybe I should swap characters.
So you try to find the window where you can cast your portal to kind of reset your flasks and kind of maybe make a quick change. But if you, my understanding, and I think this was the case for the demo at ExileCon this year, if you die,
won't need
the
to go
boss
back
encounter
to
does.
Okay, you won't need to go back to town to refill your flask. That's not how that works. Was it Kripp himself that used currency item or got a flask that said recharges on kill? It's going to be the same as this. Your flasks are going to ping pong up and down the whole way through mapping or areas.
Keep learning.
Yeah, you're never gonna have to go back to town for a flask. I don't know where people thought. It's like the well in this area. No one uses it. You don't need to. You'll have skill points and gear and things and gems that fill your flasks. Do we have pantheons? That's one thing I don't know. Like, will you have pantheons that fill your flasks too? Like this one? Yeah. Pathfinder, filling flasks.
Reset, right?
Ooh, that one annoys me.
Okay.
I don't know why.
And I've also learned, again, on the wiki, so again, I'm not sure if this is current, but apparently you can pause during solo play. Is that right?
You can. Yep.
To be fair, yeah, I don't think Kripp
see
thinks
this as
that. I think he's just
potentially
reading
being abused by hardcore
community
players,
questions.
pausing in a moment where they for sure will know they'll die, and they'll just wait for like the next patch cycle or hotfix to like reset their character's position.
So you can always.
It's
log
15
out and
minutes
reset the
or
boss fight
whatever.
whenever you want, right? Like you're not going to.
Isn't it just 15 minutes and the instance closes?
That ends the boss fight, right? Because
okay.
Yeah, because you can log back in and start from scratch. But the key thing you can't do is just whittle the boss down, like one, like log out, go back to town, heal, go back to the boss, and then continue from scratch. You know what I mean? So like it is actually, I mean, maybe okay isn't the word, but it is a thing you can do to Alt F4 from a boss fight to prevent your death. And I think that is something that there is really no solution.
There's nothing. I'll pull my Ethernet cable. There's nothing you can do to stop me from doing it.
Now, but in PoE 1, the cost wasn't high enough, right? Because like you just go back and continue the boss fight from where you left off. If you
there's no solution. You have to reset the fight if I log, which I like. I love that.
Yeah.
If I think I'm gonna die.
So and this actually, by the way, is something that we have to be really.
It sounds so
about,
bad. I hate myself for doing it.
Progression blocking can be actually
math will save us.
Right? Like,
stop us from logging out.
You can't kill it. You just can't continue the
Convince
game.
the community it's awful again.
Or something like that. So, there's good
Mathel,
people that
please.
get good in some cases, but also we have to just be really careful that those progression blocking bosses don't, completely alienate people as well.
With that in mind, I'm actually something that came to mind is it going to be like a one campaign per character type of thing, or will you be able to like have multiple characters to kind of help with the bosses along to kind of alleviate the progression?
What?
Sorry, I'm not quite sure what you mean about that. I mean,
no, Jonathan doesn't understand. What does he mean?
Campaign on each character.
Okay.
But you can always like, I mean, just like in PoE 1, right? Like there's things you can do to rush another character.
Is that what he was asking? I don't know what he was asking.
Right. No, I was thinking like if you had a character that really wasn't good at all against a certain boss, could you get your other character to kill it for
Oh,
that
I
one.
see what you mean. No, no, no. So, yeah, it
Oh,
doesn't
in
work
like
that way. It
maps.
just- it basically works like
Oh,
Payload 1.
like when I swap to like a guardian killer,
Although interestingly,
like
well,
a boss that could kill a guardian or whatever right
I
at
was
the
about
end.
to say something.
Oh,
I
okay.
realized we haven't announced it yet.
Okay. So
Wait, what was his
I
answer
have,
to
I
that?
have a... Could you get your other character to kill it for
Oh,
that
I
one?
see what you mean. No, no, no. So yeah, it doesn't work like that. It basically works like Payload 1 in this regard.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Although
you'll just
interestingly,
character swap
well, no, actually,
to boss
scratch
kill
that.
if you need
I
to.
was about to say something. I realized we haven't announced it yet.
Okay. So I have a...
What was he about to say regarding that they hadn't released yet? What could possibly be 2 characters that need to kill?
When I'm ready.
Maybe if you've killed the boss on a certain character, you get like a 5% damage increase if you've killed it once or something. So killing it on a different character, that's my conspiracy theory. You get permanent buffs if you've killed it once.
Maybe a difficult question
boss
for
one
you,
time.
but around the time we got Ruthless, we started hearing some of the news for
Oh, okay.
PoE2, and a lot of it kind of matched up. And we'll talk about the crafting bench and all that being removed, just kind of similar features in a way. Ruthless in PoE1 has seen kind of like lukewarm popularity. Personally, I really like it. I think it's maybe a touch more ruthless than I would like, but I mean, like I'm playing non-ruthless this league, and so far this league I've found about 30,000 alteration orbs, to where I don't even bother using an augmentation orb because it takes too much time to click it back and forth, right? So obviously the answer is somewhere in between the two. But
I agree.
How are you designing?
It's not even somewhere in between the two. It's like 99% towards Ruthless. There's so much currency. There's so much. I don't even... How much currency as like the top of the line people get? Like, is MP in them in like hundreds of mirrors right now? Like hundreds of mirrors worth of currency in less than a month? What are we, 3 weeks in? 3.5 weeks in? The average player, I've used so much currency this league. So much. I think I've used thousands of fusings. 10,000 alteration orbs. Rolling jewels. There's too much currency. It's too much. My fingers hurt.
The pacing of the game and the abundance of currency.
Also, yes, I know it's a loot.
All that. What has the
It's a
goal
loot
changed?
league, and
Seeing
that
Ruthless
amplifies
not,
it, but
like,
even when it's not a
explode in
loot league,
popularity, I guess is my question.
So there's a
of
lot
loot.
to talk about here, like a lot. I guess the first thing with Ruthless is I think Ruthless did definitely go too far, and more to the point, I actually think Ruthless bundled in too many things in one go. I think if Ruthless had just been item drop changes and hadn't done a lot of other things that Ruthless did, like for example crafting bench removal and the movement skill stuff, and like a bunch of other stuff, I think it actually would have gone down a lot better. And I also think as well that there probably wasn't enough attention paid.
The movement skill
to
thing
map
was weird.
sustain,
Why?
and a few
It
other
just seemed
details
weird.
like
Why not
that.
just make the cooldown a minute?
In particular,
Why
I think
remove
one
it
of the major
completely?
philosophical things we did learn from Ruthless is that we need to make sure
When I'm
not to
ready, I'm not before.
reduce the access to content being a big thing. Like I think that Ruthless did make it too hard to get access to content. And also,
'cause
like
people
probably the
can't-
currency was a bit
Is there
too
an-
rare.
there's
like
no
various
Atlas
things about
passive
that,
tree in it,
that were
right?
just I think not quite right. But also, and I'd love
It's
to
like
fix
old.
those in Ruthless, honestly.
It's like super old Path of Exile. If anyone played it, of like, you find a map and you're like, holy shit! I need to get all 6 of my friends together and tell them that I found a map. Stop farming piety. We have a map to do, boys. Spends 35 minutes in that map, getting every single piece of loot, praying to God it drops a map itself.
I need more mana.
Alright, back to farming piety, boys.
but the problem with that is that whenever we say, hey, we're doing a bunch of ruthless stuff to improve it, we just kind of get a lot of, why are you working on ruthless? You know what I mean? Like,
It's obviously
so I don't
not
think
that
like,
extreme,
the ship has kind
but
of sailed there, unfortunately, which is a bit of a shame. Which isn't to say we won't
funny
ever
it
address it,
like
but,
reverted back to
I
that
think,
time when that was
we at least
the
learned
case.
a lot from ruthless to help there. So I mean, I guess that's one side of things, but the next side of things, I guess, just comes into all of the general philosophy of how item drops should be, should be done in PoE 2. And I think everyone can agree that we definitely need to fix the fact that the amount of shit on the screen is so high that, I mean, like, okay, so
Yeah.
random thing, Mark was decided that what he was going to do this league in PoE 1 was play the like ultra ridiculous item finding strategies. You know,
Oh.
he's never actually done the like
That's a good
full on
choice.
crazy strategies before. And one of the things he ran into was the fact that when you have you get to a certain point, you can't even press Alt anymore because the game client will take so long to have all of the pop-ups appear on screen that you get disconnected from the server. So that's not so good. There's definitely some problems there. So yeah, that's obviously the other side of the extreme. But I guess I'm interested to actually hear your question about this because this was an interesting one. Is what do you think should be the difference in amount of value that, say, an average, like let's say 50th percentile player gets versus a 99th percentile player? Like, I'm interested to hear what kind of multiplier you believe is good.
The multiplier doesn't matter at all. It's insignificant. It doesn't matter if it's 1 billion or if it's 1%. It matters what the base drop is. Because if the base drop is nothing, multiplying it by 1 billion, you're still at nothing. The numbers don't. That number doesn't matter at all. Yeah, the number doesn't
really
matter
tough.
at all.
I don't know.
I'm not up to that just
I
yet.
quite like the ruthless economy. I quite like it because everything has significance, and everything has significance. Like,
Sure.
That's
after playing ruthless quite a
not
lot
an answer
for
to his question, but that's
like
also the correct
2-3
answer.
weeks, I start to have an overabundance of transmutation orbs, right? So that's when they start losing their value. I
convert
feel
them all to
that's honestly a good
alterations.
point to be at. You know, when
Spam
a currency
click 'em
that's
into
fairly
alterations.
regularly dropping becomes worthless, being like 2 weeks for a hardcore player in. Just everything kind of mattering is one of the really big appeals for Ruthless for me. I feel like the conversation of the average player versus, you know, the top 1% player kind of gets lost in Trade League because people
My
are
mana is
really
full.
good at manipulating the economy, or people are really good to play in parties efficiently, where that
Right.
model gets completely destroyed. So I really hesitate to give an answer in numbers there.
I think you still need to have a reasonably large disparity between.
Wait, I don't
like,
care about this. I'm
average,
literally
like,
just
50th
here
percentile
doing.
and 99th percentile, because that's kind of the thing that you're striving for a lot of the time, is increasing your drop rate. And so I actually think that one of the issues is. Then the other question is alongside this to kind of let's establish some constants here, right? So I would say, and this may seem like a high number, but I think that you need a difference of 1,000 times between the best player and the average player of amount of wealth acquisition. So that isn't to say number of items, I'm saying like value of the stuff that you're getting. And that's so that you've got something to strive for, right? Like you need that level of like of
1,000.
disparity from the bottom to the top.
I think we're at
make it actually like to actually give some
I don't know,
form of
billions
feeling of, like,
right
I'm getting
now?
better at this game. I'm improving, what I'm doing. So I don't know if does that number seem high or low to you? Like, what do you reckon? How does that feel?
It's,
I'm
you know,
curious.
if you're considering the trading
I'll look once I
prowess of
finish
market
this map, but-
geniuses, then it doesn't seem high. If we're talking
right.
about efficient
I think-
play with stacking the right mechanics and multipliers, that does seem very high. So
Right,
I just
okay,
don't
so-
know.
Hold on, let's look. What? PoE Ninja. Economy. Affliction. Currency. A mirror is. Change this to. Can I change this to div? No, I can't. Calculator. 148,000 times like 100 Yeah, 14 million. So let's just say 15 million chaos is like what MP is getting. Because they've gotten probably about 100 mirrors total, right? Worth of gear and drops, and didn't they drop raw mirrors as well? They're the peak of the game, right? They're like the top of the top.
I'm not up to that just yet.
They have 100. So like they're like a million times difference between us. And I'm an okay player, I'd say. Like, I'm not the worst, I hope. But I'm certainly nowhere near the best. Like, that division must be insane for, like, what the bottom tier person is. Like, the lowest tier consistent player. Like, someone who will play at least a month into the league. Do they get, like, 10 Chaos Orbs? Like, the bottom. Like, the worst player. The worst Path of Exile player. Like, that division must be crazy.
What we're talking about exactly.
Sure. I think we're just talking about, like, let's just say let's say from a map that you're running when you're, as I said, you're an average player running a map versus the absolute max mega juiced crazy map. You know what I mean? Like, in terms of the amount of wealth coming from it.
Yeah.
And so, as I said, that may seem high, but actually I think you do need those kinds of numbers to achieve that. So then the next question is, okay, well, how many more
Yeah, it
items
gives us
can you
something to
actually drop on the
inspire to.
ground from, like, from one to the other to actually feel reasonable? And I think that number's kind of not really more than 2x. Like, maybe it's a little bit more than that, but the thing is, like, on the actual ground, you probably don't want to see more than double the number of items from one to the other. And yet you need to feed, and you need to actually be receiving 1,000 times the value.
Is he saying double
So
from the
if
worst
we
player
kind
to
of
the
break that
best
down,
player?
I mean, like, so there's a few things that go into this. So one question is, and this sort of matters, is that efficiency of your build comes into it. Like, how fast can you do a map? Because that does come into the kind of, like, 1,000 number. So, like, if for example, the difference between an average player and a 1% player is like 10x in, like, speed of playing a map. So, like, you know, so if a bad player can do a map in 20 minutes and it takes a good player 2 minutes, for example, to do, then you've already kind of divided that by 10, which means that the actual items on the ground have to be 100 times more valuable per map. And I think that probably sounds like something that seems within the realm of reasonableness, I would hope.
I see.
Yep.
Okay.
But then the next thing as well is that if the amount of items on the actual ground per monster you kill is only 2x higher, then that means you've got, like, you have to be able to have increase of rarity be worth 50 times, right? So basically you have to be able to increase the value of items on the ground by 50 times with just like rarity bonuses alone, and it needs to feel 50 times more as well. It's not enough to just be like, in theory, I kind of know that this is more valuable. It has to really.
This is
feel
a hard
50
one.
times
This
more
is,
valuable.
I think this
Well,
is
I
like
actually
the
had a
hardest
question later on
thing
about
to
Magic
fix.
Find
I don't even know
in
how
View
you'd fix
2.
this.
Now,
I don't even know where
if
you'd
I had to
begin
ask this question a
this.
month ago, you know.
Because, yeah, he talks about all the points. They understand how hard this is. Because the faster you go, the more loot you get. But then you also have to take into account numbers and efficiency in the type of content you're doing and different types of content. And then the difficulty on top of it, like, the meme right now is on, oh, I did 100 Uber Exarchs and I got nothing. I did one T1 map that I died 8 times in and I got 16 mirrors. You know, it's...
My mana is gone.
There's a very difficult balance there. And I think Uber bosses are the only place in Path of Exile where the better you are, the worse loot you get. Because that shit is crazy hard, but you never... you never get really that crazy a loot. Like, what's the best thing you can get from an Uber boss? Is it Nimbus now? What's the... I feel like it used to be Watcher's Eyes, but that was 10 years ago. Yeah.
No, I would basically say, yeah, the rarity quantity system works out pretty well. But
Yeah,
I
it
don't know if
does,
you've played
but-
much this league, but the wisps that you can
I
generate,
know,
and you can generate a
crazy.
lot of them,
Yeah.
have their own effective quantity and rarity multipliers, and it's maybe
feels
one of
like
the first times we've
triple.
seen
It feels
such
like
large
300%
rarity
increase quant,
multipliers
300% rare.
with
or
such
something.
large quantity multipliers, and it does
And it's not
actually
increase,
seem
it's
a
like
little
multiplicative to
problematic,
what
with
you
the
I
amount
agree.
of-
I agree.
So
I agree.
what kind of systems may we expect with Magic Find and PoE 2?
Yeah, so what I think that we need to do is that the way that rarity works in PoE 1, one of the issues with it is it saturates quickly, and also currency is not part of it, and also there's no kind of understanding of there's various other factors of value. So I don't want to go too much into the exact details of this, but effectively what we have to make sure of is that we have the ability to scale value of things on the ground with a single number, and for that to work for all types of items that monsters can drop in a good way, so that you actually feel like you're getting more. We don't just sort of saturate into uniques. I don't know if you know what I mean by that, but effectively you can get rarity to the point where no white items drop and only blue items drop, and then you can go from there so that only rares drop, and then you can go from there so that only uniques drop. Like, that's possible.
Is that
with
true?
The way that PoE 1's rarity system works. But we need to
I
sort
can
of
get
change
so
this
high
so
of
that it
rarity
works
that
better, so that you can
a
actually get
white item won't
higher
drop, like
values of
physically
rarity
won't drop, not just
without
won't
kind
show
of
up on my
making it
filter,
so
but
that you
won't
kinda get,
actually drop.
the saturation.
I didn't know that.
The reason why kind of more quantity is necessary in PoE 1.
That's
is because,
that's a weird
more
one to know,
rarity-
because you
if
would
we-
have to have
if
your
we changed
filter
all sources
off
of
to know
quantity to be
that.
rarity in PoE
I'm not
1,
up to that
everything
just
would
yet.
just be unique, and you wouldn't get any more currency, and it kind of wouldn't be like that's not
Like,
value in
armor
the right way, if you
scraps
know what I
don't
mean?
show for me.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, there's a white item.
So effectively, we need to improve the way the item
Yeah,
drops work
that's
in order to
interesting.
make it so that, yeah, as I said, the goal would be you get
That's
like
the
a
thing I learned
ridiculous amount of
today.
juice, you see twice as many items on the ground, but you feel like you're getting, but each item is on average 50 times more valuable than if you didn't
You basically
do that.
get rid of quant at that point and just add rarity.
Since you're 10 times faster at playing the game than other people, the end result of that is 1,000 times more wealth acquisition, if you know what I mean. So that's kind of my view on sort of how this should work, and we basically just have to get to the point where that can be the case. Yeah, but we have
That's
a
a
lot
hard
of
one.
changes in mind already. I don't necessarily want to talk
That's
about the exact
every
specifics of
league
all of them,
that's
but
gonna
my thinking,
change.
at least around how it should be on a high level, if you know what I mean.
I saw a number of people asking in chat when you were talking.
My mana is gone.
I think a lot of people are wondering if the find more stuff part of the game is going to be a stat on your gear. I think that's something people are quite curious about.
Matt, like,
Whether or not there's magic find. Yeah, I mean, we definitely want to have magic find still in the game as a thing you can get.
Okay. And you're basically sacrificing character power for it, like you do in
For sure,
PoE
for
1.
sure.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
That should work basically the same.
Okay. So I was going to ask about the crafting bench being removed, but you mentioned recently to a Reddit reply.
What was that? Unbuffing in the game needs to drop way less loot and stop relying on crap fixes to counterbalance quality. Yes. Like, well, I mean, that's not really a good example. This is just white maps. So I'm trying to find corpses, which I don't know if you get more corpses higher. Whatever. That's not the point. I guess I agree with like stuff like this, like these rare items. You're never ever picking them up, ever. These base types. They shouldn't exist in maps. Because there's never ever a circumstance where you'll want a worse base type than like this. So I think getting rid of all of those would help a little bit. They're getting rid of shards, right? Shards aren't a thing anymore, so those will all be gone. Yeah. Do you think that applies to, like, let's say I'm just dropping currency. Let's say that I have a magic mod on my map that turns everything into currency. All the rare items, everything turns into currency. Do you think it should only drop, like, chaos orbs? Or do you think, like, I should get, like, 100 alterations, 50, you know, transmutations, some chance orbs? Or do you think it should be a wide variety of just currency? Just talking about currency right now. Because I think it should probably stay the same, because the more dumbing down variety that drops rarely
My
in
mana is
stacks. I kind of agree with that, because I think if you dumb down drops enough, what you're gonna get is Diablo 4. You're gonna get gold. It's gonna drop. And that's all you want. You get gold from everything. That's all that matters. And then they just tweak the numbers of the gold so it's not billions. And then there's not a lot of loot dropping. All it's dropping is gold to find gear and stuff, which I think is not good. I think that's awful. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know.
That
This
is
is a hard one.
It's no longer going to be removed.
Yeah.
And I kind of maybe wanted to ask more of a broad question. One part about Path of Exile 1 I really like is knowing that I can kind of guarantee some kind of big parts to making a character when like a new league starts. And in one end it can be something like knowing that I can have access to a trigger craft on like a wand for a character like that. And in other cases it can be like, while I might not be able to find a tier 0 unique, but for example, divination cards kind of offer this fragmented consistency of slowly knowing that you'll eventually get this one item. So is there going to be an element of that in PoE 2? And maybe you can, I know some of the details are still getting worked out, but maybe some of your goals for the crafting bench, if you have set your mind.
Yeah, so the crafting bench absolutely needs to exist for exactly this reason. You should be able to at least get some certainty.
Oh, so they rolled this back, that there is going to be a crafting bench now? He was saying he made a Reddit post about it, but I never caught this. So there's going to be a crafting bench. I think this is a good decision, but I don't think it should... I'm going to trigger people. I don't think it should be in your hideout. I think it should be in a league mechanic. And the league mechanic you get currency for or something to put crafts on. Or like in Betrayal. I don't think you should just sit there with Chaos Orbs and just spam, okay, I have this craft on, no prefix is going to be changed, I have to go back to my thing, then slam it, and hope it removes and adds the ones that I want, and then... I think it should be like a burst
My mana is
upgrade, or like a gamble. Not like it's always in your hideout and it's just... The map device is an instance? Oh, not really the same thing, but yeah.
If you know what you're doing, of being able to fix...
I hate that this
issues
is here,
with your build,
and it's just like...
you don't get lucky,
go
you still are
put
able to do something
suffixes,
about that. So I think that's really
can't be
important.
changed, and then I gotta
So I
go
think the
over
crafting
here,
bench,
and
is good for
this,
that, and
and
we do
slam
have a
it
plan
with
for what we're
failed
going to be doing
chaos,
to sort of make that work.
this back, and nah.
As for divination cards, it's sort of interesting,
But
because
I think
divination
the crafting
cards,
bench is good.
like, I really like them in theory.
I just think it should be
really do.
behind
In
a mechanic
SSF,
and not
I
just
think they work
currency.
really well. But the problem with target farming is that you effectively, when you have an economy, effectively what you're always going to target farm is whatever has the most value in the economy, even if that's not the thing you actually want for yourself.
Yes,
You're just
I
going
agree
to be
with
like,
this.
okay, here's the thing that's going to have
Also,
the
what
most trade
was over
value, like per hour played on average. So therefore, I just play that. So I think that the way that that works in PoE 1 with div cards is not so great. It sort of means that the people who, at least the people who want to get the most economic value, just end up farming one map forever and ever and ever.
Crimson Prison Gang is what they're
That's the
called,
one,
apparently.
Oh, I kind of don't agree with this.
So that's a problem. So I don't have an immediate solution to that. There's been various solutions proposed, basically changing the way the div cards work. I think, as I said, I think in SSF, it's cool. I like it. But,
yes, I love this. This is what I was going to say. In SSF, I love that I can target farm an area to get
there'll be some discussion about that. But I do think div cards are cool. I'd like to see them come back in PoE 2.
Yes, very cool.
So we'll find a way, I suspect, to make that happen. But I don't know if they're necessarily going to work exactly the same mechanically as they do now.
Okay. I've been scouring the internet.
Does he mean
for all
drop-wise or, like,
PoE2 news,
use-wise?
That's included all your recent PoE2 interviews, and there was an interview you did at PAX West where you were asked what league mechanics are going to be ported over, at least roughly, from PoE 1 into PoE 2. And your answer...
So, one being 50 times more lucrative, that has nothing to do with div cards, it has to do with Mage Blood itself being that strong. It has nothing to do with div cards. It would be you need to change Mage Blood to do something different. Because it doesn't matter how rare you make it. It could be the rarest item in the game. It could be you have to run 1 million of them to get it. People are still gonna run it. Yeah, it's the items problem.
Got another one for you.
My mana
No,
is
not
gone.
even rarity. It's just the item itself is too strong. It's the strongest item in the game, and probably shouldn't be on a div card. It should probably be like behind an Uber or something. It shouldn't be farmable that way. It should be farmed like by doing a Uber or something. That's my opinion. I think items that are the 0.01% strongest items in the game, you shouldn't be able to farm them in... What is Crimson this time? Like a T5 map? What is it? No, this is Crimson Township. What is it? What is the map called that Apothecary's on? Anyways, I don't know.
Godslayer.
Yeah. I don't care that someone can farm something, but I think that it being in with div cards makes it too easily farmable. It should be a lot more rare and more difficult. That every single... You go to any build guide, the high-end version will have a Headhunter or a Mage Blood. They will. Unless your build that you're making specifically needs something else to work. And if you're softcore, you're expected to have one, or tradecore, you're expected to have one, because they're not that
I'm not
cheap,
up to that
because
just
you
yet.
can just spam farm them in the white map. Or wherever it is. Yeah. I don't think they should probably change Mage Blood, but
was
like to do
it
something different, but
kinda
just change where
almost
it drops
depends
and
on
remove
which
the
league
div card.
mechanics you like. And it killed me that there was no follow-up question. So what PoE 1 league mechanics do you like?
Okay, well, I am a big fan of Delve.
Okay.
Delve is good.
And Incursion. I definitely, those are two
Incursion
of
is
my
bad.
favorites, partly because I just enjoyed development of them. Like, they were just really cool and thematic. I really enjoyed them. But I mean, there's lots of other mechanics that are just hugely, that are very popular
Yeah.
with players. Things like Ultimatum and things like that.
Can only drop
These are-
in
these are great. I mean, I love Ultimatum too, but like
not
there are
T85,
certain
level
crowd favorites for
84
sure.
maps. Like you have to run it red
Incursion
with at least
sorry, I didn't
6 mods. I don't know.
Let me think
Anyways,
about other ones. What are
Incursion
my
bad,
favorites in there?
Delve good.
They don't have to be in
My
PoE
mana
2.
is
This is a
gone.
non-commit, no
no,
commitment
fair enough.
answer here.
I'm just trying to think of like what are my other favorite ones. I mean, Breach, obviously.
No,
Breach is
no,
one of the
no, no,
earliest
no, no,
leagues that
no,
I
no.
really
That's not a
felt
thing. Don't do
was
that.
something really. Like, I feel like. Because what
Breach
was
is
before
okay.
Breach? There wasn't really that many good ones before
Legion,
there, right?
I think, was before Breach.
Was Legion before Breach?
Yes.
Abyss was before Breach, wasn't it?
Oh no. Am I wrong about that?
You're alive.
Maybe I'm just wrong
No.
about that.
Oh,
but hey,
apparently I'm wrong about that. Okay.
Okay. right.
Legion was after. Okay.
Yeah.
Legion was
Anyway,
after.
Breach.
I think Abyss was before, wasn't it?
There's a few things like Delirium's pretty cool. There's definitely some. Cool
Delirium's good.
Generally speaking, though, a lot of the leagues that are my favorite ones are the ones which involve, and I know this is kind of going to be a bit in the community. People have different opinions about this, but I do particularly like the ones that involve there being some kind of map that has interesting mechanics on it, and you go out and you do stuff on it, which is why I particularly like things like Delve. But I know in the community, a lot of people
They have
prefer
no,
things
no,
that
no,
side.
no, no. Do not put durability on stuff. No, 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 no. Absolutely not. The craft, what is the craft that you get so many uses on your flask before you have to put the craft back on it? No, 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 no. Awful. Hate that.
An area. So we tend to try to have a mix. I like when it comes to designing leagues, my favorite way to do it is kind of look at other games and be like, okay, what are some interesting other games from completely different genres?
Unpopular
and, like, how can we do
opinion,
some of the
I
interesting gameplay from one of
loved
these
synthesis
and make it into a PoE league. So
mechanic.
that's kind of tends to be what I most
loved it.
enjoy. And so I was kind of
was
one of
the
the people
best
who really
mechanic
enjoyed things like
they ever
Harvest,
made.
even though it was way too complicated and there were all sorts of problems.
I'm
with
not
it.
up to that
I don't
just
like the
yet.
way Harvest is now, but the old way Harvest was, like things like that were really cool. But yeah, there were issues for sure.
Well,
Isn't that crazy to think, playing Harvest, we were actually placing towers and seeds and setting up tanks and layouts? That was so bad. So bad. Mage Blood has a new modifier, maximum 3 portals. No, that's too easy. It's Mage Blood now has on death character sent to Void
Hello
League.
again, local. Give the order.
So if you die with your Mage Blood, it's gone into Void. Can't play it no more. Can't log into it. Took all your other gear with it. No, but isn't that crazy? Harvest initially came out. It's
My
so
mana is
different.
gone.
Other than the
So
gameplay
different.
side of things, one thing that I think is really important personally for a league mechanic is that it offers something you can't get anywhere else. Like if
Sure,
you want to
that's
double
very
corrupt an item, then you do temple.
Yep,
just have
sure.
to. You can't get.
For sure.
Yeah,
That's
so
fine
is-
if you
is that
liked
gonna be
Harvest
at least
planning,
the thought process
but it was
behind league
so
design.
100%,
not
100%.
Path of
It's very
Exile.
important that
It was such
that is
a-
what the end game makes the end game feel.
It was such a like you're doing your maps, you're doing your bam. Okay, I gotta move this. I gotta open my little edit here. I gotta move this thing over here. Okay, I got one of those. I gotta put that one back over there. Okay, I gotta get this one. To optimize it better, I have to move all my tanks over here, and then my little connector up top. It's so weird. So weird.
Like there's a
So
lot of
weird.
variety because you've got different goals. Like, oh, now I have to do this. Now I have to do this. Like, it adds a lot of variety to things. So it's
I
really
like that.
important.
I like that you have to go to
have
different mechanics to get
rewards where
things.
possible.
I wish transmutation orbs
I have a
were
few
in
questions
heist.
about
Give me a reason to do
specific
heist.
skills. Now, there's been a lot
Or
of
make
new
experimental
skills
bases
highlighted,
better.
a lot of combination of skills, a lot of skill modification with a few of the supports you've highlighted. But there are a few skills in PoE 1 that I feel have kind of become the game for some players. So I wanted to kind of point those out.
didn't
and,
need to do that with
if
Harvest,
you
but-
can, maybe mention if there will be a skill like it in PoE 2. So first up on the list, as
This
probably
is a
many
silly
people
question.
might expect me to ask you, is Righteous Fire. Will we have a Righteous Fire in PoE 2?
Of course.
There will be Righteous Fire.
Yeah.
Will
There's,
it
will
work
be Righteous
exactly
Fire.
identically? No, but ideally
not up to that
it
just
should
yet.
feel like the same type of thing, and the
Traveler.
flavor of Righteous Fire should all come across completely. But ideally, we can do it in a way where it feels like there's interesting combos with it, has interesting mechanics that can work alongside it, and so on. So, yeah, like absolutely, there will be Righteous Fire, and ideally, there should be any kind of really
Rework kind of
iconic
thing?
thing from PoE1, like any kind of iconic skill. We will really need to.
I think
find a
all
place for
skills
it.
in the game are going to be.
We
And-
did have a discussion
and if they're
about
not
the
in now,
exact
they'll be
mechanics
in
of how
later.
Righteous Fire works. We did come up with a plan, so hopefully you guys will enjoy it when you when we.
Righteous Fire's
I believe it should
probably
yeah,
going
it
to
should
be
in
the
template
exact same,
and
except
something.
it's
Okay.
its
Well,
duration.
closer to home for me is about minions. Now, you have mentioned that minions exist in PoE 2, so we know that already. But I was personally
Yeah, I agree. Let
curious
players
if there
upgrade
is
from Magic to Raider in the
more of a
campaign.
push
They should be a little
towards
more.
temporary minions, as there
Way more.
kind of is now in PoE 1. Like the scaling from passive minions
Replace
has kind
Chaos
of fallen
Orbs that
off
drop in
over
campaign
the
with
years
Regal.
in recent patches,
Yeah.
and the scaling for temporary minions has actually increased over
My
that
mana is
same
gone.
time span.
I have
Sorry, I
a
didn't
lot of
catch that.
ideas around minions, and we're gonna.
More of a push towards temporary minions, as there kind of is now in PoE 1.
like some
like the
temporary
scaling
minions.
from passive minions has kind of fallen off over the years in
Right.
recent patches, and the scaling for temporary minions has actually increased over that same time span.
Please, Jonathan. Please, God, say that pure Spectre builds, pure Golem builds are back. Oh God, that's a triple empowered Essence Corrupt. I don't know what I was thinking clicking that. Okay, Jonathan, please. Give us Necromancer. Remove this. Oh, I'm not playing my Necromancer right now. Remove the Chaos damage thing. And give us resummons minion on death. Give us
Come on
that.
now. Still got all day.
Give us that. That way I don't have to desecrate, find the corpse, resummon it. Oh, so bad. It's you already have it in the Necromancer for or Elementalist for golems.
I have a lot of ideas around minions, and
Just
we're going
give
to be
us that.
talking about that when we announce the witch stuff.
Make
later.
it on an item.
Next year, Tim.
Give me an item that
So there's going to be a big discussion about that. We've got
respawns
a lot
my
of features there.
specters.
We put a lot of thought into minions. It's obviously one of those things that action RPG.
6 minute cooldown. I don't
there are
care.
a certain
Just
class of people who play action RPGs who that's all they want to play. So
Yes,
we have to
they're
make sure we've got a
good.
really, really good minion story, as it were. Yeah, because of that, minions are going to get a
we got you the new Spectre. I cannot believe the Spectre bug is still
I'm not up to that
in the
just
game.
yet.
I gave up on the forums. I don't even look anymore. It took them 2 weeks to acknowledge that it was a problem. And the acknowledgement was, hey, we'll let the team know about this. And nothing since. I literally couldn't play a Spectre build. Because I didn't know that I had to go into maps, drop my Spectres in maps, res them there, and then I could use them. But if I was changing my gear around in my hideout, I can't do that. If I do that on my hideout, it'll delete all of my Spectres and resummon only one. Didn't know that. Oh, it's so triggering. I can't believe it's still a bug. But it doesn't matter anyways, because I haven't found a single Hydra. I've probably done 1,000 areas, and I have never found even one Hydra. So it must be only in T16 maps or something. I don't know. Whatever.
lot of attention, and you'll see that.
I'm
fairly
tilted
soon,
about
I
it.
think.
Now, one thing with minions that kind of comes as a drawback in PoE 1 is kind of the visual clarity, where once I have more.
To be fair to them, I don't think anyone cares about Spectres. I just don't think anyone
My
cares, so
mana
it's
is
not on
gone.
their list of things to change. Just, no one plays pure Spectres or anything like that. Spectres are just utility for 99.999% of the PoE community. Yeah,
Once
but
more.
it's just not their priority right now. let's whatever.
Make
It's my favorite
Powerful
skill in the game.
summoner, and I'm
But-
summoning more minions, and they have like more AoE in their attacks. I feel like the visual clarity of just me being able to see the boss mechanics kind of starts going down and down. In PoE 1, they has this like setting which is like bloom, but that affects both things. It affects both the boss mechanics in some cases, as well as like your skills and the minion skills. So there's
I
no
didn't know
like
that.
great way to kind of maintain
Learning
full
things just by
clarity
watching
of
this.
the
I didn't know
boss
that bloom
mechanics.
affected both.
It's
Well,
but I am
can-
stronger, so
I mean,
don't
I guess
know.
I
It's kind of
assumed
been a
it
trade-off in
would, but
PoE 1.
I
Is
wouldn't
there
think
some
it would
address to this in
dim
PoE 2?
Boss effects.
There isn't like a specific technical, like here's the specific solution, but I can tell you that visual clarity of minions is like the primary concern that I have around minions for sure. When looking
How do
at
you
stuff.
solve that?
Because that is how you know.
Do you just do SRS
there
of,
is a certain
of
feeling you want with
enormity,
minions
and there's
where
just
you kind of,
3 of them instead of
like
20?
in PoE 1, it just feels like chaos a lot of the time. Like there's just shit everywhere. Like it doesn't feel like.
But
there's
then
a
what do you
fine
do with
line, as it were. I
specters
think, like, there's
that
these
have
kinds of
like
issues.
multi-proj?
I want to try and make it
I
feel
don't know how you
different
fix
in PoE
this.
too. So we do have a lot of like stuff
Minion
around
AI is
us,
garbage.
and,
The only good
even if
AI
you
in the
looked at
entire game is
whiteboard in my
SRS.
office right now,
I'm
like
not
half
It's
the
because they're
issues
not
on
tied.
there, visual clarity.
The only reason SRS is so good is because it's not tied to your player. They don't have to come back. They don't have an attack range. They just attack what's around them. They have a little circle around them. Like, pretend like this chest is them. They have a little circle around them that some attack me, and anything in it they go after. And they don't have to worry about all other minions have that circle, and then they have like another circle that they have to stay in, that they stay in and we stay in. And SRS is the only one that has it. I think that Reaper has it as well, technically, but Reaper pops back to you when it gets too far. But all of their minions do the dance of, oh, I'm too close, oh, I'm too close, oh, I can't, oh, fire once, oh, I don't know, I can't, Yeah.
To do with minion issues right now. So yeah,
Fewer
it's
minions that are more
definitely a
powerful. Yeah,
concern.
they
It's
kind
just
of
a
are
matter
doing
of,
that
like,
with the
just
transfigured
better
gems,
design,
which is
really, when it comes
okay,
to what the
I
minions'
guess.
abilities look like and this kind of stuff.
It
As well
solves
as
the,
there's
like,
just a lot of
melee
it's kind of
minions.
like 1,000 individual subtle things that kind of
My
add
mana is
together to
gone.
make
Yeah.
things have more clarity. And that's kind of true across PoE 2 in general. Like there's a lot of
This
focus on
isn't a
trying to make
minion
sure
problem
there's
though.
visual
The clarity problem is
with
not
the
a,
skills,
because
even though they look
all
really modern,
skills that have
they're still,
multi-proj or increased area
clarity,
effect
like,
have this problem.
because we're get
So,
the opportunity
it's
to
not
have
a
a bit of a
minion
reset
problem.
here graphically.
I don't know
it
what-
means that we can consider very carefully like what slots around the enemies do the different effects go in, and like how can we make sure that
I don't know if they've obviously thought about this. I don't know why they don't do it though. Why aren't enemy
You spiraling into the abyss.
enemy attacks, enemy, I don't know what you'd call it, textures prioritized over ours? So like, no matter what, a fireball coming from an enemy is always going to be on top of whatever projectiles I'm shooting. Whatever on death effects on the ground, they're always on top of whatever I'm doing. I don't know how that works in... I'm trying to think of how that would work with like ground effects versus in-air effects, because it would look weird if there was an on-ground effect above like a fireball. Yeah, maybe that would just... It would fix the problem completely, but I think it would look really weird and janky. Because, yeah, I think it would solve a problem. We both agree there, but I think it would
I'm not
look
up to that just yet.
really weird. If you had, like, a corpse on the ground that was exploding or whatever, and all of a sudden you threw a fireball and it, like, popped up above... Or, like, the fireball disappeared into the ground and, like, went underneath it. It would look really janky.
like we're kind of making sure, okay, like
That would be the
if something's
solution,
like
though.
on like a
a
this
solution,
may
I'd
actually not
say.
be like 100% correct, but it's like if something's on the like blade of the weapon, then that is always a herald effect, for example. You know, like nothing else is taking that
Oh, I
slot
see.
on the character, so you kind of know that, like, you know, like these kind of things are kind of what we're trying to do to make sure that everything has its place and you kind of always can see things without having to have too much overlap. And hopefully,
Yeah, but then how do you
a little bit of that
prioritize
goes out.
that? They'll look janky on top of enemy effects, but then how do you do that for, let's say there's an on-death effect. I'm trying to find one on the ground right now. Sure, there's this burning ground. It's my burning ground. Let's pretend it's an enemy's. But what do you prioritize then if the enemy throws one of these boys or that on-death effect? Are they both there? Or is the ground effect more important? Because it's deadlier?
My mana is
Then,
gone.
like, is the corpse explosion more deadlier so it should get priority to be seen? I don't think they would ever do that because the game would look awful. If, like, skills and effects were disappearing and reappearing behind each other. They already don't like that, I don't know if you heard about this. They talked, Mark, I think, talked about it in one, that projectiles, you no longer fire projectiles in a straight line no matter what. You fire up and down. So, like, the closer you are to something, the more into the ground the shot's gonna be. And, like, at a distance you'll fire up. And you'll miss sometimes. Because you won't be firing, two enemies will be at different heights. So yeah. They already hate it with that. I doubt they would change it for this. I don't know. It's a hard issue. The only solution is that weird, janky, awful looking thing, or way, way less proj and skills and area effect.
At least
And the game then
those,
looks
you know,
like
the visual clarity should be very
2001
good if we're doing our job well.
Okay. So, bit of a subject swap here. In PoE 1, when it comes to designing a character, a lot of it kind of has to do with putting check marks on defensive goals. So, the first round of goals is like avoiding lockouts, so you don't get stunned, don't get frozen.
Yeah, I
And
agree.
then the second one is usually don't get killed by
I'm not up
physical
to that
damage,
just
because
yet.
physical damage is unique in a way where
Oh,
more
I
of it
was not
just
paying attention
ruins
to what
your
you said.
ability to
Reading what you said. That sounded important.
Okay. So, bit of a subject swap here. In PoE 1, when it comes to designing a character, a lot of it kind of has to do with putting check marks on defensive goals. So, the first round...
Caveat. Only hardcore players have to do this. Softcore players, defensive layer. The only defensive layer they'll ever need. How many portals do they have left? Doesn't matter anything else.
round of goals is like avoiding lockouts, so you don't get stunned, don't get frozen. And then the second one is usually don't get killed by physical damage, because physical damage is unique in a way where more of it just ruins your ability to stack armor. And the third one is just like, does this character get one shot from typical stuff that happens to it? Is this kind of going to be a similar checklist?
Is that the right order of those, would you say? I would say that stun and freeze immunity
My mana is gone.
probably number 2. I would say elemental or spells, spell block or spell suppression or LE resist would be number 1. Number 2 would be like disable
to defenses.
Yeah.
I don't know that it's not particularly easy to necessarily avoid that, but what I would say is that I would hope
It's
that we
such
don't
a
get to the
hardcore
point
issue.
where you have to feel like every character needs to be completely immune to certain mechanics. Like ideally,
But
it
that
should
has
be
to be
a
the
reasonable
case
choice to
in
choose between, is this something
hardcore.
I'm mitigating or is this something I'm completely preventing? So that should always feel like it's a choice. But at the same time, like having certain things you need to be able to deal with as part of a build is, you know, like part of the, I guess, the trade-off you're
agree.
making when it comes to, like, you know, how, like you need a bit of tension to make defense, like to make it so that you don't just make a complete glass cannon with zero attention paid to defense at all. You do need to some extent to have You know, like how am I going to deal with this particular problem? So I think that will still be a thing. But I can't promise that the exact details around it will be the same in PoE 2. This is honestly something that I am not myself as involved with, I would say, as some other people.
Oh, that's why I was wondering why he
I mean,
was
obviously I
being
still
so
kinda, like,
weird
talk
about
the
this.
stuff, but,
He
you know,
doesn't.
people
He's
like
not dealing
Rory
with
and
any of
Mark
this. That's
tend
why.
to be a little bit more, you know, like knowing about, like have.
This is
specific thoughts
balance
around that stuff.
questions that he
Well,
probably
maybe
isn't
this
dealing
isn't
with.
too
Character balance.
apt of a question, but I'll ask it anyway. Will you perhaps eventually be able to trivialize a mechanic entirely? Like, I know the stun mechanic in PoE 2 is much more sophisticated than PoE 1, but are you able to make a character that's completely ignoring stuns of all kinds if you want?
There should always be a way to do that. The cost of it should always be something, right? You know what I mean? So, like, I mean, there's absolutely will be a unique that's going to be like you can't get stunned, right? There's going to be uniques like that.
Okay.
There may be a keystone that does like that,
Yeah.
that does that in exchange for some kind of big downside, but there always just has to be a downside in order for that to be able to happen. And then, of course, you know, you should be able to invest in stun reduction to the point where it no longer phases you as well, right? This kind of thing should be possible. So that should always be possible. It's
He
just
kind of
always
answered
it's
this
just always,
question
like,
already with
cost benefit,
Magic
right?
Find.
Like, what are you?
It's just a trade-off.
You know, what are you?
You want to be a stun character? Great. You're probably gonna lose
In
damage.
terms of character
I'm not up to
design,
that
I
just
think
yet.
it's maybe, at least
Magic
for me,
Find, you're gonna
one of
lose
the best things that
damage. You
PoE
wanna be a
1
speed
does,
character?
where,
My mana is
it
gone.
always
Or a damage
seems
character, you're
difficult
probably
to
gonna
get
lose
enough of
defense.
everything. Like, you can
Yeah.
make a character that does millions or even like 1 billion damage, but you can only really do that if you have no defenses. Or you can make a character that's extremely tanky,
That's not
but
true,
the damage ends up
technically.
being lackluster to a point where you literally have to tank more things.
Sure.
That's
that is
technically
is this
not
gonna be a
true
similar
in
approach to
Path
PoE
of
2
Exile.
character design?
Absolutely. And this has actually come up when we were discussing the.
So, I don't know if Kripp has ever seen Delve characters that are completely immune to damage, basically. If they are attacking, they're not gonna die, unless it's to a one-tap. And they're also dealing damage cap. Not dot cap, they're dealing damage cap. So, that's technically not true. I learned about that just this league, so I'm not too surprised that he maybe didn't know that. Or maybe he's talking to generality. Actually, maybe he's talking generally. Not the top 0.01% of people.
Tree about like things like okay, so this is another tree philosophy thing. Is like okay, should it be that the reason that you get a variety of things on the tree is because there just aren't enough nodes for a given thing to be able to do that? Or should it be that there's always enough nodes to be able to allocate for a given thing? It's just that you don't want to do that because you've got other concerns that you need to do. And I think it's the second one that's important. Like, if you really want to allocate every single point into, you know, some particular stat that's, you know, freeze reduction or something random like that, then there will be nodes for you to do that. It's just that you don't want to do that.
The mechanic
because,
that
you know,
does that
that's
is
not the
Blight.
important thing. And I think that's
You
kind
can
of
level,
generally
like,
how we've
4 or 5
looked at our
times.
philosophy around this stuff.
I don't actually know how much, how many levels
So
will you
some
get if you
people
did a
aren't
T16
quite aware
Blight
because
the
you know
second you got into the
it's one
campaign?
class here,
Or
one
out of the
class
campaign.
there, and we haven't seen a lot of like the trailers for the classes that already exist in PoE 1, which we have at least heard of a little bit that they're being redesigned in some ways. But eventually, we're gonna have 36 Ascendancy classes in PoE 2. And my first question is, if we have like twice as many Ascendancy classes, is there going to be a different design in like the lifetime of a character when a new league comes out or a new content update comes out? Like, are you expecting players to play like many characters in each season, or like 1 or 2, kind of how they are in PoE 1?
This is a hard
I think
question
it would
to
just be
answer.
like how it is in PoE 1, honestly. The fact that there's
Yeah,
a lot of options there, I mean,
I don't know how you
the
would
intention
answer
is for PoE 2 to
that
last a
any
long
other
time, right? So, like,
way.
ideally, you know, like having more classes like that just means that it's going to be a
Like,
lot longer before you
hardcore
run out of
SSF,
stuff
I
to
play
try.
multiple characters
So
because I
ultimately,
try and
that's
play
the
characters
reason why
based on the
just,
gear
play
that
this
I'm
minute, we just want
dropping.
to have a lot of stuff that you can, you know, to play around with.
Or I need it to do
So,
something, like
yeah,
I'm playing
I
this
imagine
tornado
that
shot
eventually it's
to
gonna
get
be
it to
1 2
Magic
characters
Find,
just like it was
hopefully,
in PoE 1.
My mana is
so
gone.
that I can
In
play a
PoE
character
1,
that I
it's
want.
taking like dedicated players that are focusing on leveling. I'm not going to say some days, which are like the fastest times, but let's say like a week to hit max level. Is that kind
The lab on a character that was their late 30s started. They were exited the lab. Really? Were you like full clearing the... I don't even... Really? You gained 5... Are you sure you gained 5 levels? 4 or 5 levels? I think normally I'll get 1, maybe.
That you guys are trying to hit in PoE 2 as well in terms of the pacing for.
You had to have been full clearing or something,
I
or
think it
you
should take a bit longer than a
hit
week.
like experience mobs.
I sort of feel like I'd want to go back a little bit in terms of how long it takes to be more
That's
like
crazy.
what it was like sort of 3 to 4 years ago, I would say. You know, where it was a bit longer. But I mean, it'll take people a while just to sort of learn the game, I think. So I suspect
People are
going to
take a while to learn the game. Not as long as it took before,
quite
though.
a while. Like as I was saying before, like, you know, the first time I beat a boss earlier, it was like 5 minutes, and then like that went down on my second time to like 2 minutes. So even just from that perspective, like, you know, and it's sort of
Kind of, yeah.
So I think that people will get faster and
That's
faster.
true.
So I mean, I honestly don't know at this point how long it will take people the first time through the campaign,
What?
and I suspect it'll take them a very long time.
There was a harvest on top of
yeah,
Planet
it'll
Wild.
get
But
faster.
What is a very long time?
you're putting them
Honestly,
real on the spot here.
I honestly
Kripp.
don't know for sure because we don't have like the entire, like, not every area is like fully like it's not playable. I mean,
The layout
all the areas are
isn't
there,
done
but they're
yet,
not
so he
playable
doesn't
in the sense
know.
that, like if you have bad monsters, like when I say bad, I mean like monsters that don't have like all their abilities and stuff like that in an area, it's just boring. So like nobody wants to play those areas. So that means that we don't really have like proper progression testing. Like we've polished the first half of each act, kind of thing.
Welcome.
And so we haven't got like a sort of full, like you can just play through the whole game to do progression testing yet. So that means that I can't actually say how long it will take, but I honestly believe that
Hunt well.
like for an average player, I mean like gotta
Don't
be
give an answer.
like gotta be at least 40, 50 hours, I think.
Oh wow.
Don't give that answer.
I think
Oh, that
that's
was such a
actually
gross answer. I hate that answer. Oh, because it's not true. There's no way it's true. Oh, people are gonna run with, oh, the campaign's gonna take me 50 hours to complete now. Oh, I'm on my first character. I'm new to Path of Exile. I'm 600 hours in just completing my first character. Yeah, he said campaign length 40 to 50 hours. There's no way that's true, John. There's no way. Because he just said himself it took him like 5+ minutes to kill a single map boss. But then after like 2 or 3 for PoE 2. He said it took him 5+ minutes to kill that single map boss. But after a couple tries, he had it down to under 2 minutes. He probably wasn't even playing that good. He probably didn't have the best gear on. It could probably get down to like seconds. It could probably get down to like 50 seconds or something to kill that boss. If you're an okay player. If you're a really good player, probably like 30 seconds. And if you're wearing like leveling stuff, probably like an insta-kill. Yeah, I don't know about that. I hate that
Player
answer.
to get through, like, it could be longer, honestly, for people who like haven't played.
I hate all the people that are going to talk about that
So
answer.
that kind of things. I mean, I guess that's kind of like
He doesn't know
half an
the
hour
answer to the
zone when you
question,
include, like, you know,
but he
fighting
gives
bosses.
one
Like,
anyways.
I sort of want people to die like 1 to 2 times on each boss the first time they play it, because they haven't learned the mechanics yet. Like it should feel that
Okay.
way when you're kind of playing through the first time.
I agree with this. I think that's correct.
So that will mean, you know, like that kind of thing. So like it just. A
I think
little
it should
bit
be more
harder,
times.
like,
Hey, you died 10 times on the
But the
boss
thing is,
the
I think
first time you do
PoE1 may
it.
even be that hard for people who just play the game for the first time now.
Yeah,
It's
I
just
think
that
it
once you
okay.
played
Like
it,
if I don't know,
yeah.
I've been watching some of the people like everyone's doing it. Diablo plays
My mana is gone.
Path of Exile for the first time. Oh man, this boss is crazy as they are standing in the what do you call it? Like the shotgun, no, the laser beam. It's just standing still, just getting hit by the observer's laser beam over and over again. They're like, oh my god, he's dealing so much damage. But then you learn, oh, I just gotta run in circles. Oh, there's a bleed mechanic on this one that I gotta stay inside the circle. But yeah. Man. Okay.
People play
That's the first answer I've really hated so
never
far.
died to this thing.
Because he doesn't know the...
Because of the fact that you actually, you have to restart the boss if you die to it now, it will force you to actually learn the mechanics and kind of, work out these things during your first playthrough.
Okay.
That'll be interesting. But yeah, it'll take people a while.
All right. Well, that is it for the questions that I had personally, but I have scoured the
those are
internet
all his
for
personal
unanswered
questions.
and I have picked a few up from chat, and if you guys want to
I
post
thought
a
some of
question
the...
in
So he
chat-
didn't know about a few of those things that I said earlier. He actually was asking them himself, which is interesting.
If it's at least different enough from what we've already discussed or what I have, I'll maybe try to include it near the end. But yeah, we people do have to be in places eventually, so we don't have Jonathan forever. But yes, with that in mind,
I was like,
I
what
want
is
to
he
ask
talking
some of the
about?
questions. They might be a little bit less researched than some of my own, so might brace yourself for some.
Okay, let's come up with some questions here. Is PoE 2 going to be slower than PoE 1? Why are you removing melee from the game? What's a crazy question? What's some off the wall shit they're about to ask? Will there be bosses in the end game? Will there be pinnacle bosses? Oh, they're gonna ask some
but that's
dumb
okay,
shit.
hopefully.
Not up to that just yet.
So here we go.
Maybe he's
I found
filtered
this one
through
on a
them,
YouTube
so they're not gonna be
comment, I
that.
believe. Oh no, I think it was on the official thread of this interview on
I
the
love this
PoE,
community.
Forums. So tell us about the die system you mentioned in 2019. I don't know anything about this, so please.
Yeah, I
What
guess I
the
probably mentioned that
fuck?
back in ExileCon back in 2019. It's something that we could still do, but it's not honestly something that I've kind of thought about for a little while. I know it's something that a lot of players...
Why are class gender locked? No, he would filter those out. He wouldn't ask those
very keen for,
questions.
but, like it's kind of not really on
wouldn't
my
ask those
radar at this
questions.
point. Like we're just focusing on content really. But
These
there's nothing
motherfuckers
really
are asking
preventing us
about
from doing it. It'll
dye
just be a
to
matter
put
of
on your
marking up
gear.
all the armors and the parts that get modified and so on. So it's just a bunch of
These
bit of
motherfuckers
work there. But yeah, it can be
are
done.
lost.
I don't know if really it would be there at release. It's kind of... I know that would be disappointing for a lot of players, but it's just kind of one of those things that has kind of fallen by the wayside a little bit as we've been grinding out on a bunch more...
I'm sorry. Who cared about putting dye on my... I don't even... Can you even tell me what color my character is?
99%
Right
of
now. I
PoE2
challenge
misgivings
you.
have been about the gameplay pace. Now, you've kind of adjusted this a little bit. But
What color
I
is the
wanna
gear that
ask
my
it
character is
again
wearing?
And ask you how is it current relative to
Right
maybe
now,
what
look
we've
at my
seen a few
character.
months
What
ago
color
at
are they?
ExileCon? Is that
Yeah.
still kind of what we're expecting? Or is that, as you mentioned, a bit slowed down so people can kind of see the clarity a little bit?
If you
so I guess
zoom
I
in all
kinda
the
don't
way...
Really, like, okay, so
Wait, I
a lot
gotta
of
wait
people
for my
are like,
effects to go off.
You're
The
slowing
red
it
isn't
down to
actually
this, or
there.
you're
I think my
like,
color,
they
my
have a
character's
lot of
just
things like that,
brown.
But I think
the whole
really
way
when
through.
it comes to when we're like...
I didn't know that.
This
I
actually
think I'm
relates
wearing
a
the
little bit to what I was
last
saying before
league's
about how we haven't been able to do full
rewards
progression testing
on this
yet.
character.
Which is that
the
when
beast
we,
set, right?
what that means is that when we're balancing an area to like
Because I
do a
like the,
demonstration of for ExileCon, the demos and all that sort of stuff,
I like
we
the
kind
health
of just
bars. Where's a
we
rare?
make a character that's about what we think it should be for this area, and then we kind of balance the monsters
Not that rare.
from
That's
that
a
point
scary rare.
for the demo.
Oh yeah, look at the health bar. I
to
like
just kind of
that.
hit
Look at
like
that
what we
thing.
want, where we
It's so
expect to
cool.
sort of be able to
There at
understand
the
the
top.
mechanics
It looks different. I like it.
and kind of like give a good
That's it.
showing.
That's the
how
only reason I
the class
wear
should
this.
be. I think at ExileCon, it probably was balanced a little hard. But the thing is, each demo is kind of its own thing because of the fact that,
Yeah.
like as I said, we don't.
I don't
have
even know
full
what
points
was
of
the question he
progression
just
testing the
asked.
whole game
What is
yet.
he talking about?
So, ExileCon, like,
I tuned out
because of
these
These
questions.
demos are just like how they are. Effectively, what it is just like me and Mark will play it, and then we'll be like, did we get through it too quickly or didn't we, and then adjust accordingly. So we just
they
adjust
did
it until it
ask
feels
how-
fun to us. So I think that people maybe sort of ascribe a little bit too much
This
to that
community.
sometimes. That being said, I think that it's probably best to look at the pacing stuff to be more like when we were discussing earlier
to that just yet.
with maps and what the median player versus the 1% players would be doing. I think we still want to make sure that there's still a 10 times disparity in efficiency between a good and a bad
Didn't he say
player
1,000 times?
in that situation.
Not 10
So that would
times?
certainly imply that there can be certainly a pretty good amount of pace you can get up to. But what I do think is also bad, and I guess this is another philosophical thing, is that I don't think it's really good when you someone opens up Path of Exile on Twitch. They look at what the game looks like at the
Whoa!
absolute 1%
Open up my channel on Twitch right now, guys. It's great.
end of it. And it just looks like utter, just like, what is even going on the screen? You know, it's just like shit is everywhere. Like, I cannot, there's no visual clarity. I cannot tell what the hell is going on, and the boss melts in like 2 seconds. You know what I mean? Like, I don't. Think
I
it's
have
really
very good
either.
visual clarity. I'm shooting
So you do need to
50
be able to
arrows
get,
at once,
a lot more efficiency,
and everything's dying.
than the average player. But we do have to be.
I'm
a
not
little bit
looking at my
careful.
screen. I'm
But
looking
I
at the
don't know,
map,
I guess
the
all of that is
mini-map.
to say that like it's a little bit hard to say exactly what the pace will be like in maps at this
The
point.
only time I look at my
I have
screen is
no
if my
doubt
health bar
that
moves.
The
The rest
people
of the time, I'm always looking at the mini-map.
But it may not be as high as it currently is in PoE 1. I think that's very likely. But at the same time, like, it's really important that people feel like they're able to break the game. Like, you want people to feel like, oh, I'm breaking the game right now. I'm like got an insane amount of projectiles, like way more than I should be able to have, like all this kind of stuff. So yeah, I guess this is a bit of a hedged non-answer, which I worry is a bit of a problem here.
Well, it's still in development.
Yeah.
I can't fault you for that.
Right.
There's,
The way that I asked the question was,
not a problem.
you know, kind of seeing post-Ruthless Experiment what your thoughts may
Sure,
be
for sure.
on the matter.
And you're definitely right that it's the #1 issue that people talk about PoE 2. Like the fear in the PoE 1 community is that it's just going to be super slow paced. And I don't think
I hate this question. I hate it. I hate it. You're a stupid, dumb person if you think that it's going to be 10 billion times slower or anything like you've seen in the trailers. If you think it's going to be even 1% of that, you've lost the plot. You're
I
so
think that when you play
far
it, you'll have fun. Ultimately,
lost.
that's all that I'm.
You've no
after,
idea
right?
what
Like,
Path of Exile is.
So it's actually interesting because there's been cases of this, right? Where like I was playing.
Why do
the
I keep
Mercenary,
finding the boss? I don't want
in
to
the
find you. I
demo,
want to find
for
the
the,
corpse vendor.
for the demo that we recorded, and then I went back and I played. What was I was playing? I think it might have been the warrior actually. Afterwards, the demo character we had at ExileCon, I was like, man, this is way too slow. So even just from me, like it can often be the case that my opinions change as I'm playing as I'm playing things. This is really going to come down to the progression testing.
Give me
to kind of see what
onslaught
we
so I
feel.
can stop doing this.
But
Feels like
I
a waste.
guess
I'm
the
wasting my
main,
time right now.
the guiding star, I suppose, at the end of the day, has to be that when you get an item, you feel like it improved your character. Because if you don't have that, then you have nothing.
not up to
So
that,
you know, like we still have to maintain that feeling through the whole game, and there has to be a feeling of progress as you go.
Yeah,
through.
exactly.
So,
If I'm Exiled, bet they got the boy. Man, isn't it kind of? Listen, GGG, I love you guys. This is the best game ever created. Wasn't that fucking ExileCon kind of silly to have? I kind of thought we were going to get to see Path of Exile 2 with the speedrunners, and it was going to be, like, released. I don't know why we didn't get that. Like, imagine that stage, and they're like, alright, before these guys do their speedrun, we've given them access to the game all weekend. This is them speedrunning Path of Exile 2. Act 1. Just Act 1. Or, like, Act thing. We'll see who gets through it. And they, like, fly through it. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, like that's kind of we'll kind of I guess end up where we end up, where it honestly.
Yeah, like maybe they give them a
may
day or
sound
two
a bit silly,
to
but it's
play
like,
it
it just has to feel
beforehand.
fun to me, right?
So
Like
it's
I have
not
to play it and
totally
feel like this feels fun.
blind.
And if it doesn't feel fun to me, then I'll increase the numbers.
Yeah,
And
they gave them the
that's
weekend
really
to
what it
try it
comes down
out,
to.
or they just tried it out on their
I
free
have a
time on one
question
of the test demos.
about how much of an endgame map is the boss in it?
Completely
I suppose.
blind?
Yeah,
You've kind
but
of
quick.
answered this slightly through.
Letting them play it completely blind kind of defeats the point of showing that it can go fast, though. Because they... one-shot mechanics, they won't know about them. Ooh, Venters. That's a horrible item. I think just the Weekender, like, they let them try the demo, or let them get just something... some sort of knowledge of the game. And then show how fast it is. They'll go fast, but you want to show how fast they could actually go with like just a little bit, just like a weekend's worth of knowledge. Because we both know that that weekend's worth of knowledge is going to be astronomically slow after like 2 or 3 months of them grinding and learning the best strats, best skills. It'll be 100. They'll fly through it. Like my videos on like me getting through the campaign in 3.5 hours. That's with full leveling gear, playing Val skills. What's it like? What is the current speed run for like Act 10 no gear? Like 2 hours? That shit's crazy to me. I'm flying through the campaign.
I'm not up to that just yet.
I don't see why people think that the game is going to be slow or it's going to take, what Jonathan just said, 50 hours to get through it. If the campaign's going to take 50 hours, the end game's going to take 10,000 hours. That would be the equivalent to like Path of Exile 1. Or there's not going to be a lot of end game, which would be a scary thing.
You've been winning, but
I don't know.
can you keep it up?
Or
I hate this
mastery
question.
of, you know, repeatedly going up against these bosses and just defeating them faster and faster. But I guess we can broadly ask you perhaps, how much of a map that you do in the endgame of PoE 2 should the boss be?
Yeah, so I think
all these questions, the community, all these questions, they're so stupid. I hate these questions.
drops at the very least. So we've actually discussed the drops in particular. I think that 1/3 of the map should be boss drops. 1/3 of the map should just be regular monsters, and 1/3 of the map should be other events and things that come up.
Yes,
like
exactly.
things
They'll
like that.
scream about how
Which isn't
slow
to
and
say
awful it
necessarily
is.
that every
My mana
map will
is gone.
always have stuff like that, but on average across many maps it should be about 1/3, 1/3, 1/3. Ideally that should roughly
Oh.
map onto.
I like that answer. That was actually a really good answer to that. Jonathan, why didn't you answer that answer to the other ones? 1/3, 1/3, 1/3. That's perfect. Because now they can insert whatever time they feel like it into that. I like that answer. Yes, perfect. I like that answer. Good job, Jonathan. Best answer yet. You don't give anyone time specifics, you give them like about what you think it might be.
The amount
I
of
like
time
that.
you spend
Good
doing
job.
those things
Very
as well.
good answer.
So that's kind of my view on it, at least. Is roughly 1/3, I would say, should be.
Good
should be the
good
map.
answer.
I don't know if you're fully comfortable
That could be
answering
that
this
could be
one,
30
but,
minutes, 30 minutes, 30 minutes, or 30
inquiring
seconds, 30
minds,
seconds, 30
are
seconds.
curious. Why did you guys decide to continue working on 1 and 2 at the same time, like separately, rather than evolving PoE 1 to PoE 2? I
Hedge
know
their
it was like
bets.
a big announcement that it's going to be its own
yeah.
project, but I
They
guess
probably got surprised
people
by it
really
and
didn't
hedging
get
their
the
bets.
why sufficiently.
His answer is going to be because we know that people like PoE 1 and have invested so much time into it, and this is the game that they'll like to play. That'll be his answer, but it's basically just hedging your bets on one doing better than the other and keeping the community happy at the same time. Which, it's fine. If they can do it, there's no harm in doing it. I can't think of a case ever. Is there ever a game where majority of people always go back and play the original over the latest releases? Like, Call of Duty, like, is an example, kind of, people going back to play, like, COD 4? But isn't really true, because probably, like, 99 times more players play the new Call of Duty, whatever it is, Call of Duty Modern Cold War 6, whatever it is. But
So it really comes down to, we want to be able to make whatever changes we want to make without it becoming a problem for the existing community. And when we first announced in 2019 what we were planning on doing, I don't
That's what
think
I thought the
we
answer would be.
appreciated at the time the degree to which the changes would actually change the game.
yeah,
And
this
so
was
it really
they
just
were
came down to,
surprised
like,
they
you know,
didn't
we had
expect it to
people-
be.
in the office who are like, I'm really worried that the game, like I'm talking about like, people in the QA team, things like that. They were just really worried. I'm worried that the game that you
My
make
mana is gone.
won't necessarily be the Path of Exile that I like, right? I mean,
I think vanilla is as close of an example as you could get. Do we have the numbers on what vanilla is compared to resale? I don't. I would say that it's still pretty close. And I had never played Classic before. That's the reason I went and played through Classic and did raiding and into like Molten Core and stuff. I'd never experienced that before. That was one of the reasons why I did it.
How's the
But I think that's more of an event thing. Like, they could do events in PoE 2, like, hey, go back and play PoE 1 for this week, and this week's event is going to be PoE 1. I don't know.
they still look at what we're doing, and they like what we're doing.
I think everyone's
But
going to
there was some
migrate to
worry
PoE
there.
2 no matter what.
And so when
Doesn't
I heard
matter
that,
what
I kind
happens.
of thought about it like pretty hard for a while. I talked to Mark quite a bit about it, and we kind of said, we really just wanted to be free to be
Yeah.
able to let the games diverge without having to constantly work. Because I worried that the decisions that we wanted to make for PoE,
Like
I didn't want
Destiny 2, is anyone
PoE
playing
to hold
Destiny
PoE
1
back
still?
as far as like
Getting
having
their
to make
raid
balance
groups
decisions.
together
Like we didn't
for
want
it?
to have things like where we're like, we can't change this because then all these players will get angry or things like that. We wanted to be kind of free to be able to just like make whatever changes we wanted to make. And I think the PoE 1
Surprised, and they
compatibility
don't want to anger the
idea
community. That's
was
the
just sort of starting to become a
answer
thing
to
where like,
this.
we can't change this because it would break this or break that or whatever it was. So
Yeah.
that's really the reason. And once we decided
seems
that,
silly.
I think we started to get a lot
Seems
more
very
crazy
silly.
with the kind of changes that we were doing. So things like WASD, I
that
don't think
even-
would have happened.
Is that even true for Overwatch? I know more people don't like Overwatch 2, but I would probably
I'm
guess
not
more
up to that
people
just
still
yet.
play it than Overwatch 1. Isn't it on Steam now as well? I don't play it either. I used to play Overwatch 1, but I'd still say the player count is way, way, way higher. Probably. Is Overwatch League still a thing? Well, I guess that's not a fair question, because there's like StarCraft 1 tournaments still. StarCraft 2 exists. But... Well, they were removed. Well, no. They took existing Overwatch, and then they removed some features and called it PoE, or Overwatch 2. They didn't add anything new. They just removed and then slapped a new name on it. Yeah.
Under the
I
old
can't think
model,
of
I
a
don't
game
think
where
we would be
community
able
hasn't
to,
completely moved on to the
accept
next
that kind
one.
of thing, just because
With the exception of
mode
like
we were thinking
events,
about
like
was
Classic
much
WoW
too
when
much
it
a
first
kind of
came out.
we're extending the game rather than making a new game. I think it was not enough in that direction. So yeah, it really just comes down to that.
Or a hardcore,
And as for
this
why we
hardcore
want to
season
continue
when all the
supporting
streamers
PoE
are
1,
doing
well,
it.
like it's still a great
I
game.
wish I had known about
It
the
just is
hardcore thing.
it's just a bit
I
of a
would have
different
actually
game.
probably gone back and played hardcore.
So I think it's absolutely very
Would've been
valuable
really
to
cool.
support, and a lot of people will still enjoy it. Yeah, like I see no reason why we can't do both.
All right, that's excellent. I had a question. People
guys are
were
wasting
wondering
money on
about
PoE 1.
hideouts.
That's like
The
my
question they
opinion
had
is.
was, are you going to have bigger or more in-depth hideouts than PoE 1? But I guess the
I hope they choose one of three things. I hope that the portal device is in a town. So like, obviously make it look better than this, but I hope that everyone is here so you can inspect and everyone's just going into their map device. They have their stash here, whatever. 2, it's a guild stash, or you join a guild and everyone uses the guild one. Or 3, like your hideout, if someone has the same type of hideout as you could see players in it. But the first one I like the
base
best.
question is, are we even
I
going to
don't
have
care about my
hideouts
hideout
at all?
There'll be hideouts. There'll be hideouts for
Okay.
sure.
I don't care about hideouts.
Mechanically,
I would rather see
I don't think
players
they'll
and
probably
see their
change
gear and see their
too
loot
much.
than
Maybe there's
look at
there's probably
these
more we can do to make it a
changing
bit more
walls.
interesting. But I still really like the whole freeform placement and decorating and all that sort of stuff. Like I think all of that. It should work the same way. And also the PoE 1 microtransaction hideouts I want to still be there, and PoE2 you can still use it.
Oh, that's why they can't remove hideouts, or they can't change how hideouts work because people have bought hideouts.
I'm not up to that just yet.
Oh. Fuck. That's why why does the PoE 1 is fucking over PoE 2. Like, I don't want to play in a party, but I would like to see what other people are doing and like see people's gear and see them in town and like see people running in. And
Need your aid.
even if it was instance based where it was only like 5 players. Yeah. Yeah. I feel like I haven't designed a hideout since my like first like 2 or 3 leagues. I always just go to the hideout website, PoE hideouts, and then pull one from there. Yeah.
Them and just have that as your hideout. Yeah, like that should all come across.
Yeah.
A question was about losing experience on death.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
it's pretty interesting
a lot of people-
because right now in PoE 1, some people like it, some people don't like it, but the landscape for it is like if you run up against the boss where you die, you just look up how to beat the boss, or you look up a build that can beat the boss. But with none of that existing in PoE 2, I feel like the death penalty, if it was the same, would feel a bit
My mind is
overbearing in some cases.
Nope. Nope. No. No. These community questions. What happened when they added Cirrus? What happened when they added Searing Exarch? Did they have to change the penalty for dying to him because there was no guide out on how to beat him yet? No, there wasn't. People just ran in, died to him. In less than a week, we had a Ziz, not even a week. Day 2, day 1, we had a video on like, these are the mechanics. Don't get hit by the balls. Stand in the circles. Run in a circle around them. Here's the... Run out of the maze. You'll see the lights that show you how to get out of the maze.
Yeah. So in campaign, there's no ASP
Community
Okay.
questions.
gone. And that's because you're expected to die.
Feel a bit
Experience
overbearing in some
penalty's gone?
cases.
Yeah. So in campaign, there's no XP penalty in PoE2.
Okay.
It's gone. And that
Isn't this already a thing? You don't lose experience in the campaign in PoE 1, right? I've never a softcore character in the campaign. This is already a thing, isn't it? I thought it's like once you get to level 70 or something that you or get into maps is when you start getting the XP penalty.
I'm not up to that.
Oh, it's
just yet.
5% and then it goes to 10%. That's how little of an issue this is. I didn't even know there was one in the campaign. Oh, okay.
to the bosses. And basically, as soon as like the declaration of "I want you to be dying one to 2 times for each campaign boss for the first time," kind of implies, well, we can't have an XP penalty then.
This
and also,
isn't true,
in
though,
PoE 1,
right? This isn't true because you don't want us to die because then you wouldn't add a hardcore mode in, so you want us to be able to do it without dying. And nothing changes in between hardcore and softcore, right? So the boss is going to be the same. I'm going to do it without dying, so a softcore player could do it without dying as well.
that was the only penalty that actually like was anything, because of the fact that you could just go resume the boss from where you left off. Whereas now the penalty is that you have to start the boss again. That's enough of a penalty in itself. So that's fine. We don't need the X penalty anymore. But the one question is, what about in maps? And
I guess that's
I don't
whatever.
necessarily think that the X penalty is that important in early end game, but I think in late end game it actually is very important, and that's because you need to, in order to have some kind of challenge.
You're
to
99.9% you die and you go
get
down to like
to level 100.
you lose like
You need
20
to have
maps worth of
something that's
progress.
going to make it like effectively a build check, as it were, to make sure that you actually have survivability in your build. And so the X penalty is
My
what
mana
makes
is
that
gone.
allowed to
I don't
happen.
have any opinion on
So
any
we
of this.
definitely need to have an X penalty towards the very end of the
Don't
game.
plan on dying.
I'm not exactly sure.
I plan on
what
losing
we're gonna be doing to
100%
sort
of
kick
my
that in
experience
exactly yet.
gained on death.
But there'll be some
Send
kind
me
of
back to
kick and
level
X
1.
penalty towards the
That's my
towards
penalty.
the later end game to sort of make it so that yeah, you still have to actually have a survivable build to get
don't
to
know.
level 100.
The next
That's for
question I have,
for
I'll
players
just
to
read it
decide
as it
on
was
how they
asked,
like
but
that or
I
whatever.
do know there's a bit more to it, so I'll add on it a little bit. So the question was, how do we interact with flasks, and how many flask slots do we have? I know it's been announced that the flasks kind of will not recover from normal monsters and will be kind of in a way replacing.
No, this isn't true. Because flasks, you can put the mod on them. We've seen it in there. Recover flasks on kill.
Guard skills.
So normal monsters
So you have
well-
maybe
you
a bit
recover
more to
your
add about that?
flasks.
So basically, the philosophy there. So just to talk a little bit about why
Unless
we
they
did
change
that, so to
that.
have it so that so only blues and
Since
above
the
monsters will
Exile
actually recover
con.
life flasks, because there wasn't enough state in Path of Exile 1, in my opinion, with regard to your character. And what I mean by that is, and this actually, which one was it? Yeah, I'm talking about Final Fantasy 13, I think it was. Was that the one? I think it was Final Fantasy 13, which is a game I hated. The reason I didn't like
not
it
up to that
was
just
because
yet.
your character, you effectively every time, every time you finished a battle in that game, your character was reset to full life. What that meant was, is that there were really no resources. Like there was no feeling of like if you fight a group of 5 monsters and you fight the same group of 5 monsters again, it's literally always exactly the same fight because there's no resource that carries on between the fights. And that was a thing that made me really dislike that game because it just felt very grindy because, you know, there was no sort of feeling of tension of like getting, like in previous games in that series, there was this feeling of like, you know, you leave town, you kind of have this like your health is kind of slowly decreasing as you sort of go through the game. And then eventually you run out of resources.
Is
and you have to go
leech
back.
not a thing?
And while I don't necessarily want it to be that you're always going to run out of flask charges in PoE 2, that is not the case. I do want it to be that it isn't just that you're always on full flask charges, because the flasks have to kind of on some level the flasks are really your health bar. You can recover your life in PoE very, very quickly, and so it's really your flask state that is kind of the main state of your character. And so yeah, like that is something that I kind of want to make still be the case. Now there's going to be things like leech and so on that's going to allow you to solve those problems that not, you know, like without necessarily using flasks. And then of course towards the end game you're going to be replacing some of your
My mana
flasks
is
with other
gone.
things and so on. But I do think that it is important that you don't just feel like every time I kill a pack I get all of my life flasks, my flask charges back.
But that's...
As for guard flasks,
I think we just need to wait and see what they're gonna do with this, because they must have removed the craft that we seen at ExileCon, that you could killing mobs increases flasks. And if I'm leeching, I don't care, I guess. Maybe instead of flask refill, we're gonna put flask duration on our flask so that I clear... Yeah. Well, I think even if we don't recover flasks, maybe we only get one use. Aren't we all just gonna put the increased effect, increased duration on and clear the map before our flasks run out? I don't see a circumstance ever where I'm like, okay, my flasks ran out, time to port back to town to refill
I'm not
them.
up to that just yet.
And is there a well in your hideout? Like... there must be a well in your hideout then? Because what, do I have to go to my hideout, then go to... Because he said there's hideouts. So do I go to my hideout and then I waypoint from my hideout to the town to fill them? Or will they automatically fill the second I enter my hideout? Because they said we have to click, they don't just appear once you enter. I don't think any of this is going to be in Path of Exile 2. That's my guess.
And things like that. Flasks are a nice like resource limiting mechanic that we can use.
I don't think any of this is going to
things
be in
where we
PvE2.
don't want to have a cooldown, but we do want to have something that you use on occasion. And I think the tension between life.
I think if it makes it to the beta, the community is gonna
is pretty good.
revolt, and they're gonna.
So, but at the
change
same
it.
time, we don't want to kind of be flask piano where you're just like constantly, you know, constantly using them. So, ideally, they kind of get to a point where you use them in the right circumstance, you don't use them otherwise, and there's some interesting tension there, and they can serve as a nice resource mechanic. That all players have access to, that you can kind of choose. You know, like,
Beauty will grow from your remains.
So hopefully that kind of gives you some idea.
I don't know.
Unless you've got any other questions about
I
it.
guess
that
as they
sort of,
changed
like, kind of basic philosophy around Flask.
flash crafting since
Personally,
Exile Con, and
I'm kinda
removed all
curious
the
to see
mods
what
that
you guys
gain
come up
flash
with
charges.
in the final design of it. I think
I don't
it's one of those things where
I doubt this is
there's
going
so
to be in the
many
game. The community will
factors that come
revolt.
together to like a feel-good Flask system. That's really difficult
Yeah.
for me to say.
Sure.
I like it because of A, right? It's
Yeah,
just
yeah.
the whole thing
Well,
has
let's see
to
what
kind of
right now.
have
What
a
is
good
my-
feel to it.
But
What
I
is
will
my
say
defense
that changing,
without
not
my
having
flash up?
charges come from normal monsters was an instant game feel upgrade in my opinion. Like when we
Okay.
made that change, and surprisingly
need to
we
get out of
didn't.
here this
Like
time.
I thought we would have to buff the amount of flash charges that monsters gave, the ones that do give charges in response to that, and then we just didn't, and it seemed to be fine.
It doubles my defense.
So,
Just
that
flat
might not be
doubles it.
entirely accurate, but yeah, it didn't take much to actually make that change work well, as it turned out.
Okay.
The biggest
Oh,
issue
so-
actually was just really early game before you have very many blue and yellow monsters. Because you weren't getting enough charges there. So that's when we made it so that checkpoints give you charges, and that kind of resolved the issue, plus a bit of tweaking about early game Flask, like the pool size and a few other details like that, and we kind of managed to get it to feel pretty good, I think.
All right. So a question here is about casual group play. It said that other RPGs in the genre
problem that I
generally,
very much
do it pretty well, but in PoE it felt punishing to play with another person. Is the question?
Oh
that
man,
I
this
found
is
online.
a very,
So I'm kind of curious
very
if
big
PoE 2
problem
will
for
kind
me.
of address
Oh man.
kind of like casual play with other people in ways that PoE
I'm
1
not up
doesn't,
to that
perhaps.
just yet.
Well, there is a few things we have going on there, but I don't really want to announce any of that right now, unfortunately. But I'm curious to know what the punishing thing is actually referring to with that. Because I don't know that I feel like I am aware
I've been
about that
SSF
issue.
for like 4 years personally, so
Yeah, we don't know the fucking answers
yes,
to this.
I don't have much input on this either.
Maybe I'm just terribly misinformed about this, but I guess I'm not.
What's a down? Do you know what's a downside to party play? That you have to stay next to each other for aura bots? Is that a downside? Clunky in parties? Like what? Like ritual, you're all in the circle. Vast difference in spread and power, but how do you change that? You put the Maple Story mod on where everyone's power gets equalized? How do you possibly do that with maybe damage cap? Everyone only deals 100,000 damage? Okay, they get the Challenge League stuff. I thought that was for everyone, but okay, I guess that's an issue. Yeah, I guess that's an issue. Just change that to Challenge Leagues are for everyone. You can't change the speed and power of different characters. That's just, you'd have to like put overall debuffs on everyone to bring them down. Everyone's movement speed is 20. Everyone's max damage is 1 million. No one can go above 1 million damage. I don't know.
Not aware of the being punishing to play with another person in particular. I mean, sure, the life increases, but you know, you've got more people. I don't know that. I guess
Yeah,
I
don't.
know.
Oh god, tradcore people, software tradcore people.
I have
Oh,
a question about a character preview
My
with
mana is
MTX being ported over and its own MTX. Path of Exile 1, you just kind of have to impractically
Yeah,
zoom on your character to
I'm
fully
aware.
appreciate it.
This is something that we intend to address, and you should
What
know.
did he ask? I don't think I heard the question.
I have a question about a character preview with MTX being ported over and its own MTX. Path of Exile 1, you just kind of have to impractically zoom on your character to fully appreciate it.
This is something that we intend
I don't
to
understand the
address,
question.
and you should know, because the MTX store is the same in PoE 1 and 2, that any changes we do make to the MTX store will be
I'm not
in
up to
PoE
that
1 as
just
well,
yet.
because they'll have the same shop. So yeah, it's something that I definitely hear. We would like to have MTX preview. We are working on it, and you know, we will hopefully get there before too long. Because yes, I agree.
I feel like he didn't answer the question
But I
that
will note
was
that
asked
while it's
to
easy for
him.
certain things, it is quite hard for others, especially with the complexity around the MTXs these days. So yeah, there's quite a lot of work.
Yeah, but you can't preview. They're not going to let you preview what it looks like in a map while you're attacking and stuff. Maybe just in your hideout, you can use it. You can like test stuff out in your hideout. They're not going to let you take it into a map or anything. There's no way. Or maybe you get one use test per day of it or something. Yeah, you can't see what it would look like. Yeah, I don't know.
To do there, but we are intending to do that work, so I'm hoping we'll be able to get that one.
I don't know what
All right. Now, this question doesn't have quite that much meaning to me, but when I opened up the floor to Twitch chat to ask their questions, the one that was spammed like crazy was...
What's this question gonna be? The one question that's spammed like crazy. Is it gonna be referring to gold? What is gold gonna be used for? I can't think of. They've already asked the stupid slowness question. Is there fishing?
Cross save / cross platform play question mark.
Oh
so
yeah, they already
maybe
answered
you
this,
can
didn't they?
do them a favor and give them some insight.
Oh, cross save. I don't know.
I really
cross
do
play,
want to
right?
talk about this, but our console stuff, we kind of haven't really talked about this yet. But suffice
There's
to say,
crossplay, right?
PoE 2 will be a much better experience on console than PoE 1 was, and take that answer for what you will. But we're going to be talking a lot more about those details before too long, when we talk about what we've got going on console.
With console play being part of...
Didn't they... am I crazy? Didn't they already say that it's going to be crossplay as well? Specifically, you can play PC and console people at the same time?
The mindfulness of the project, let's say. What might people expect for hardware requirements? Are the ones listed on the Steam page still about right?
My mana is gone.
I believe that the
I'm
Steam
not up to
Path
that
of
just
Exile
yet.
2...
The Steam...
the
wasn't
Path
it
of Exile 2
crazy?
Steam
Wasn't it
page,
like you need like
which
an
you can go to and wish list, by the way.
i3
just to quickly, plug that.
like
Gen
Gen
2
2 CPU or something?
So I believe that's what's listed on there is like a 960 is the lowest. That's NVIDIA 960 is the lowest.
Yeah, a 960.
And that probably won't be like the most amazing experience ever on that card, but I believe that's what we have as our sort of minimum requirement there.
All right.
That's pretty crazy.
What is your stance on builds that require 10 plus units
That's like playing on a
function?
PS2.
And for the example they gave is the Golemaster, so I guess we're including jewels in this list of 10.
I mean, there should absolutely be builds like that, but ideally most builds have
I'm playing
some
on a
combination of
i7
would be my opinion. But I mean, yeah, like that kind of thing can happen, right? You want some builds to be expensive and some to be cheap. That's just absolutely a factor. So yeah, there should be some expensive
CPU
builds.
I just got it.
Question: How can we get a beta key for PoE 2?
So we haven't officially announced that
Probably
yet, but if
buy
you look
it.
at the 3.0 beta, you should expect something very similar to what happened there.
Okay. About
What
the
did you say?
You should expect something very similar to what happened there.
Okay. About the
How did they do
rearrange.
the 3.0 beta? Wasn't it through random player emails?
Come on now. Don't got all day.
Wasn't it that way? So, oh, that's kind of weird. I kind of thought like it would just be open, or it would be like you buy a supporter pack to get in. Oh, anyone who spent 500. Have I spent $500 on this game? I've bought 3 supporter packs. No, 4 supporter packs. And like 100 mystery boxes. Is that $500? Yeah, it's gonna be a lottery system, and then people who have bought. Interesting, I guess. I really thought it would have just been open to the... basically open. I assume I'm getting in because I think I've spent $500, probably. If not, I will spend $500 to get in. So, not really a big issue, I
Arrangement
guess.
of UI pieces. Will there be an option to drag buffs and debuffs around? I guess for personal customization, clarity type of thing.
I could.
I
I
know
don't
our
care
UX
about
guy
this.
was kind of keen on this, which
I'm
is
not up to
possibly
that
what we
just
might
yet.
potentially allow that. There's sort of various
My mana
updates
is
to how that
gone.
stuff
Yeah,
works.
I don't really care whether they do
I
this or
guess
not.
I'm sort of mostly fine with that. It's probably not that hard to implement, so it's something we could probably do. But I don't want to promise it immediately, just because I'd have to kind
It's
of like do a bit more
okay.
exploration of it. But are you?
I think the only circumstance where I would want it is I want to see the debuffs on me instead of flicking my mouse up there while I'm like trying to get away or click away from something. Make it so like
Hunter.
like the hover over shows at all times. So like I don't know how to explain it. Like this little hover over, like Hill Force wins. Like this is always underneath debuffs or something. That I think is the only case where I would care. Is there anything else on my UI? Get rid of this stuff up here. Just get rid of all of this. I'd never want to see this up here. I never want to see these 3 little drop down things. Yeah, I don't know. Other than that, I don't care. They could all stay the same. I don't know if it's how normally people play, but I play off how the character feels. I don't know if that makes sense. Like, I feel if I'm going slow. I feel if I'm not doing enough damage. I don't, like, look at my buffs to see what it is. I look at, like, my gear and my POB to see what... I don't know. I feel like it's cope for people that play, like, WoW. It's cope for people that, like, play WoW and they have, like, 800 things all in the center of their screen and... what is it? Hot Aura? What is the name of the thing in WoW? Something auras? Something... Alert! Alert! Run away! Alert! Alert! Stand in the circle! Alert!
Hello again, local.
But yeah.
UX guy was kind of keen for something like that.
Okay.
But I don't care about this really. They can do whatever they want. Don't matter to me.
Ready.
So I have a
Change
pretty
it,
long
don't
question
change it.
here. I'm just trying to understand it, to summarize it a bit. But I guess the question is, how much will you be able to kind of customize an encounter, like, for example, a map, to kind of be something your character can take on? Like, let's say if it's a map with a difficult boss where he'd scale like lightning damage, You wouldn't want to do like a minus max resist
up
in
to that
PoE
just
1,
yet.
for example. You have that layer of
mana is
customizability
gone.
to curb the challenge.
Is he asking if you
something
could
like
roll
that going
maps?
to exist in PoE 2?
There will
that all he's asking?
definitely be ways to customize. Like, I mean, like in PoE 1, there will definitely be things you can do to customize maps. As a starting point, of course, there's just map mods, right? Like just the mods that are on the map, and that's still there and still works largely the same way. Although there will be a lot of the particulars will change a lot as far as like the exact mods and everything like that, and the way that the rewards of it scale and this kind of thing.
Here's a conspiracy theory I have. I haven't heard them talk about how you encounter mechanics at all. I think League mechanics and stuff are going to be map mods. I think you're going to roll a map and it's going to be like, has a delirium mirror. That's what I think they're going to do. That's my conspiracy theory. All scarabs and all that stuff maybe will go away, and it's all going to be you roll your map, and that's how you get... or maybe it's not your map, maybe you roll your map device. So your map device always spawns whatever map you put in it always has a mirror, like the delirium mirror on it or something. Or sextants maybe. Well, they won't be 1 or like 3 time use or something, they'll just be always on. That's what I think.
There will also need to be a system that won't be the Atlas tree, like it won't be the same as the Atlas tree, but certainly there needs to be other sources of mods that maps can get in some fashion. And
he just said there won't be an Atlas passive tree in the same regard. That's interesting.
Hail God.
That's interesting. People love this thing.
that will come down to the design of the in-game system, which we haven't talked about yet. But effectively, there will need to be things like that. So hopefully that answers the question about...
Okay, people want the Atlas tree, obviously. They want the Atlas passive tree, 100%. Everyone wants it. No one doesn't want it. So they must be adding something in equal to it? Which is what? What if it's like... This is the stupidest idea I think I've ever had. What if it's like your passive skill tree? If you hover, you press Alt and you see the oils. What if you press Alt and it shows like... this is the mod that comes with that passive mod. So based on what character you build is what Atlas mods you get. Horrible idea. Don't do that.
But effectively, there'll be the same sort of
that
things you can
just
expect from here, like from PoE 1 and Endgame, where you can
My mana is
customize
gone.
maps basically
Okay, good.
with mods and stuff.
I think he's talking about Sexton,
question here about
Scarabs,
the
all that
flat system
stuff is
once
going to be
again.
there. Okay.
Is there a chance that refilling
the only
flasks
thing that'll
at
be different
wells
is
will
the
be
Atlas passive.
revisited if players don't like it? And maybe I can actually add a little bit of input on this.
How you roll them.
So in Ruthless, this is how it works. And what I did in my hideout is I put the NPC that refills flasks right next to the portal I normally take when I enter the map. So it's literally like one extra click for me, to the point where, it doesn't really seem super worth it to have that as a mechanic because you trivialize it anyway. What do you think?
There's the portal skill gem. That's what he's
So
going to
this
say.
is one of those funny little things where
He's going to say portal skill gem, isn't he?
it may not seem to matter that much. There's just a tiny little extra bit of making the town cycle feel like it has some purpose. You know what I mean? I do appreciate the fact that in Ruthless, sure. I mean, the fact that you can move stuff around in your hideout kind of just means that it ends up in endgame being mostly trivialized. And maybe what that actually means is that for hideouts, we make it so that it works a little bit different, and like it just refills your flasks automatically while there or something like that. But it was just kind of like just during the campaign though, it just kind of has the slight feeling of like makes the world feel a little bit more kind of, like I guess it just you want a bit of physicality to some of these things.
Jonathan, what are you talking about?
I don't think that once you've kind of done it a little bit in PoE 2, it doesn't feel particularly wrong at all. We've made sure to place the wells pretty close to where the portals are and this kind of thing. But I mean, look, at the end of the day, we're not in the business of like making people hate us for no reason, right? Like if everyone's really hating it constantly, then I guess we would change it. But at the same time, I hope people are just fine with it, and it won't be a particular issue when.
Oh, really? That's your answer? I don't think so.
All right, excellent. Well, that is my list of questions, and I did kind of go through chat.
Okay. I don't think... It's been 10 years. Everyone has complained about Wisdom Scrolls for 10 years. Has not every single person complained about Wisdom Scrolls for 10 years every single time we click one? We click them 10 times a map just to sell the item anyways. And they never changed it. We complained about Portal Scrolls for probably the past 5 years, maybe more. They've never changed it. I doubt they're going to change this for PoE 2. Highly doubt it. But
I know some people still had their own question, but in many cases I feel like I've, in a way, interpreted it in a different question.
I think
so,
these questions were
I
okay.
think this is a good point to
There were
kind
some
of
really stupid ones, but
put an end to it. An hour and a half is a digestible format still for most people.
How slow is it going to be in PoE 2 compared to PoE 1? Where's the
So
die
perhaps
for
we
my
can
arm?
end on a note. Thank you so much for joining us, and perhaps you can mention when we might expect the next big announcement for PoE 2 updates or any tidbit of news coming
Probably
up.
next week.
So I don't have any particular date, but I wouldn't think it would be too far into next year when we would be announcing some more stuff. We've got a huge amount of announcements to do next year.
They're probably going to do a character release in the next coming weeks.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining me today, Jonathan. I hope it's been a good experience for you, and I hope chat has enjoyed it as well.
I like the trailer.
We'll get this up for you guys to watch on VOD format. And if you have any questions, I've seen, outside of this interview, I've seen Jonathan personally reply to many people's questions on the PoE 2 subreddit. So he's very active in the community.
There's a PoE 2
subreddit.
subreddit?
Questions, just throw it out there. There's actually a pretty good chance Jonathan's eyes will hit it.
For sure.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I feel like that subreddit's like, no, they just told the community that this thing exists. He doesn't reply to the forums, he only ever replies to the subreddit? I've made posts on the forums, though. I agree. The Portal Scrolls... Oh. I agree that the Portal Scroll is kind of pointless. Let's look at the Reddit. Path of Exile 2. And it should be just a button right here. Or a hotkey. Like, just one of these should be Portal. Or what I think is when you kill the map boss, it should just spawn a portal. Killing the map boss should spawn one. Yeah. I don't see why that's not a thing. And then if you want to leave early, you have to assign a hotkey to it and use one of the currencies, or just use the skill, and it takes a quarter-second cast time or something. I don't know. I had it today. Today, I went into a map, and I immediately wanted to leave, because I don't know why I wanted to leave. And I went to go click on the portal that you spawn right next to, and it didn't exist. There's no portal there, so I couldn't leave. And sometimes I don't bring portal scrolls with me. Like if I'm juicing a map super much and I just want the extra slot, and the map's a circle where I'll end up back at the end. Today I could have soft locked myself, or I would have had to log out to get out of the map because there was no portal. It was weird, but anyways, let's look at. I googled Path of Exile 2. There's doesn't show up as Path of Exile 2 communities. Oh, here. Path of Exile 2. Tavern Talk, John and Mark. Tomorrow, Gazzy, Darthman, John and Mark will talk about Path of Exile 2. Hey, am I fucking crazy, or did Jonathan just say sometime next year will be the next time that we talk about Path of Exile 2? These motherfuckers are talking about it tomorrow. In 11 hours. What? What? Okay. Okay. Please remove scrolls and magic find gear. Okay. Okay. This subreddit's interesting. Why do we need magic find gear? Okay. Super resolutions. Okay. Texas Gateway load screen delay. Okay. Can we not have Soul Eater? So far, there's 2 posts about Soul Eater and 2 posts about MF gear. One about network. Okay. Alright, I know why I don't know anything about this subreddit. Okay. Wasn't the Kripp interview, like... Oh, it was 5 days ago. It was the 29th. No, the 30th. December 30th. No, not even 5 days ago, because it just turned over, so it was 4 days ago. I just seen it in my feed today, though. And I was like, oh. I didn't actually see this in my feed. I seen, Raiz QT's video was in my feed. Oh. Oh, so sometime next year. Oh, that's what you're talking about. Oh my god. Okay. I think Jonathan had one of the best answers. In summary, I think he had a really good answer to the speed thing, and it's 1/3, 1/3, 1/3. Very good answer. I think that, like, over half the stuff that they talked about we already knew. The answers to it. I don't think... Yeah, the cappuccino maps. 3rd, 1/3, 1/3. I don't think the flask thing is going to be anything like how they're explaining it. That's my guess. And if it is like how we think they're explaining it, it's gonna get changed. It sounds awful. Community questions are always... Okay, be nice. Community questions are always very interesting.
Godslayer.
Not predictable at all.
I'm not up to that just yet.
I love the PoE 2 community. Okay.
I prefer really not to speak. If I speak, I am in big trouble. In big trouble. And I don't want to be in big trouble.